Good evening, and welcome to the latest happenings inside our federal machine.
Yeah, all right, federal machine time. It's Monday, November 17th, 2025. This is Spathon, bringing in another episode of The Swamp. President Trump jumps on the Epstein files bandwagon, siding with Democrats in their demand to release all the files. Even a number of House Republicans are expected to vote this week on releasing the files on Jeffrey Epstein. Tonight, President Trump speaks at the McDonald's summit on the economy, and we'll have a look at some of his speech. Also, the United Nations Security Council has officially endorsed President Trump's newly formed Board of Peace and their 20-step plan to rebuild Gaza. The Supreme Court agreed today to hear arguments from the Trump administration on the government's authority to limit asylum claims processing at ports of entry. And the Department of Justice has filed a challenge against California's mask ban against federal agents. The DOJ's argument is that California officials wish to have agents harassed and doxed as they execute standing federal law by apprehending and deporting illegal immigrants. Also, the FBI Atlanta field office announced they seized 3,200 kilograms of methamphetamine and arrested 12 individuals related to the bust. And it's been revealed that Chicago Public Schools staff have spent over $7 million taking luxury vacations around the world while the school system sits in $700 million worth of debt. And that looks like that's going to be it for the intro. And if you enjoyed the video, please give the video a like if you've got a quick second, and consider subscribing to the channel. And if you enjoy the daily updates, of course, and I might read your comment on the next episode if you decide to drop one. And every article you'll see in the video will be linked in the description below. And by the way, if there's a government department, agency, office, official, entity that you notice that I haven't covered in any of my episodes up until now, just let me know in the comments and I'll add it to the list. All right, so we're going to get started with Rapid Response 47. As President Donald J. Trump said, quote, House Republicans should vote to release the Epstein files because we have nothing to hide, and it's time to move on from this Democrat hoax. Why haven't Democrats shown the same transparency, and what else are they hiding? I don't know. I think that's a very fair question. All right, so this is from Donald J. Trump's True Social account. As I said on Friday night aboard Air Force One to the fake news media, House Republicans should vote to release the Epstein files because we have nothing to hide, and it's time to move on from this Democrat hoax perpetrated by radical left lunatics in order to deflect from the great success of the Republican Party, including our recent victory on the Democrat shutdown. The Department of Justice has already turned over tens of thousands of pages to the public on Epstein, which I believe it's 50,000 pages in total, at least so far, are looking at various Democrat operatives, Bill Clinton, Reid Hoffman, Larry Summers, etc., and their relationship to Epstein, and the House Oversight Committee can have whatever they are legally entitled to. I don't care. All I do care about is that Republicans get back on point, which is the economy, affordability, where we are winning big, our victory on reducing inflation from the highest level in history to practically nothing, bringing down prices for the American people, delivering historic tax cuts, gaining trillions of dollars of investment into America, a record, by the way, the rebuilding of our military, securing our border, deporting criminal illegal aliens, ending men and women's sports, stopping transgender for everyone, and so much more. Nobody cared about Jeffrey Epstein when he was alive, and if the Democrats had anything, they would have released it before our landslide election victory. Some quote-unquote members of the Republican Party are being used, and we can't let that happen. Let's start talking about the Republican Party's record-setting achievements and not fall into the Epstein trap, which is actually a curse on the Democrats, not us. Make America great again. So that was the statement from President Trump, and it looks like Rapid Response actually has... okay, yeah, they do have a thread. Okay, so let's read on. And they go on to say, why aren't Democrats talking about the fact that Stacey... Is that Democrat? Yeah, Democrat Stacey Plaskett. Oh, she's a delegate from the Virgin Islands. So Delegate Stacey Plaskett, Democrat, U.S. Virgin Islands, solicited and was given $30,000 from Epstein for the DCCC after he was already a convicted sex offender. Or the fact that Plaskett herself accepted maxed out donations from Epstein for her own campaign. Well, of course the Democrats don't want to talk about that now, do they? Or the fact that the wife of the former Democrat governor of the U.S. Virgin Islands told Epstein, quote, "We would have a friend in Stacey," unquote, if he made said donations. Or the fact that Plaskett was literally texting Epstein during a committee hearing. That is wild. If they could actually prove that to be true, or if they've already proven that to be true. I mean, if that's actually the case and they have any images of that effect, I'm sure it'd be nice if they linked that. Why aren't Democrats talking about the fact that former President Bill Clinton traveled on Epstein's aircraft 26 times? Or the fact that one of Epstein's victims wrote that she saw Clinton on Epstein's island with 2 young women? Or the fact that Clinton's visit to the island was corroborated by one of his former top aides? Why aren't Democrats talking about the long relationship and storied friendship that Larry Summers, ex-Harvard president, Clinton Treasury Secretary, and prominent Democrat had with Epstein, who described himself as Summers' wingman? And they actually link an article for that. That'll be in the description. Why aren't Democrats talking about the fact that Democrat so-called journalist Katie Couric had dinner at Epstein's residence after he was already a convicted sex offender who had served jail time? Why indeed? That's another article that'll be linked. Why aren't Democrats talking about the fact that Reid Hoffman, billionaire Democrat mega donor, visited Epstein's pedophile, I know it's YouTube, Pedo Island, attended a dinner with him, and even planned to stay at his New York mansion? Yet another article from the New York Post. And why aren't Democrats talking about the fact that the Democrat National Committee refused to return $32,000 in donation from Epstein? And yet another one. Where is Democrats' transparency on Epstein? And that's from the whitehouse.gov. So we got a whole bunch of articles for your viewing pleasure if you want to get into the nitty-gritty details with all of these statements from Rapid Response 47. We're going to move on to the next one. There's a lot to get to today. So this, again, from the same account, quote, "We have nothing to do with Epstein. The Democrats do. All his friends were Dems. I hate to see that deflect from the great job we've done, so I'm all for it," says the president on releasing the Epstein files. "It's really a Democrat problem. The Dems were Epstein's friends." Indeed, they were. They were. All right, let's take a look at this.
We have nothing to do with Epstein. The Democrats do. All of his friends were Democrats. You look at this Reid Hoffman, you look at Larry Summers, Bill Clinton, they went to his island all the time, and many others. They're all Democrats. All I want for people to recognize the great job that I've done on pricing, on affordability, because we brought prices way down, but they're going way lower, on energy, on ending 8 wars and another one coming pretty soon, I believe. We've done a great job. And I hate to see that deflect from the great job we've done. So I'm all for it. We've already given 50,000 pages. You do know
50,000.
Unfortunately, like with the Kennedy situation, with the Martin Luther.
But frankly, okay, they may have given 50,000 pages. That's a lot of pages. I mean, some would argue that's probably quantity over quality. I think what people are looking for at the end of the day is the Epstein client list. We want the list of Epstein's clients, the people who took advantage of adolescent children, girls. That's what we want to know. And the federal government stance up to this point, as far as my understanding goes, is that there is no Epstein client list of those he blackmailed. So how about we scratch out the blackmail part and let's just get to the client list in general.
The King situation, not to put Jeffrey Epstein in the same category, but no matter what we give, it's never enough. With Kennedy,
oh no, it's never going to be enough for Democrats.
And it wasn't enough.
Nope, always going to be something.
With Martin Luther King, we gave everything, and it's never enough. We've already given, I believe the number is 50,000 pages. 50,000 pages. And it's just a Russia hoax as it pertains to the Republicans. Now, I believe that some of the people that we mentioned are...
Well, but wait a minute, though. Is it really a hoax, though, President Trump? Are there outstanding documents? Are there documents that have not been released to the public? I think the answer to that is yes. Because even Republicans, they've come out and said, okay, yeah, we'll vote to release all the files. All right, well, then there must be files that haven't been released yet. So let's just release all the files and get on with it.
Being looked at very seriously for their relationship to Jeffrey Epstein, but they were with him all the time. I wasn't at all.
No, he kicked him out of Mar-a-Lago.
We'll see what happens. What I just
when was that? Like way back in the 80s or something,
Epstein
right?
to do is detract from the great success of the Republican Party, including the fact that the Democrats are totally blamed for the shutdown. You know, they cost our country hundreds of billions of dollars.
Oh, yeah, they did.
At a lot of inconvenience. So I'm for I don't, they can do whatever they want. We'll give them everything. Sure, I would. Let the Senate look at it. Let anybody look at it.
Yeah,
but don't talk about it too much, because honestly, I don't want to take it away from us.
Oh, no, don't say that.
It's
Come on.
really a Democrat problem. The Democrats were Epstein's friends, all of them. And it's a hoax. The whole thing is a hoax. And I don't want to take it away from...
See, whenever he says that it's a hoax, the Democrats come out and say, so it's a hoax, so then why is Ghislaine Maxwell sitting in prison? Why did Jeffrey Epstein get arrested more than once?
Really the greatness of what
the bullshit tactics that they employ
has accomplished over the last period of time.
All right, so that happened today, and this is from Oversight Committee, the GOP oversight on their official government account. Democrats got caught red-handed spreading a hoax about President Trump and Jeffrey Epstein. They misled the public, lied about witness testimony, doctored documents, and are now scrambling to cover it up. We have the receipts they don't want you to read. So let's have a look at these receipts that they've got ready. Number one, let's start with a former AG Bill Barr. Democrats claimed Barr, or quote, Barr could not clear Trump of wrongdoing, end quote, after his deposition. What did Barr actually say? There was no evidence, and that if SDNY had anything on Trump, they would have indicted him. They didn't. And do you think that that's true? I think that's is close to 100% as humanly possible to true as possible can possibly get. They would have indicted the hell out of him if they had anything on Trump. Democrats' lies about Barr deposition and Acosta transcribed interview exposed. On August 18, 2025, the Oversight Committee conducted a deposition with former U.S. Attorney General Bill Barr. During his deposition, Mr. Barr was asked the following by Representative Jasmine Crockett, Democrat of Texas. She says, and you have no direct knowledge of any of the now young women or women that claimed that they had encounters with the president through Epstein, correct? Mr. Barr, I never was told by the Southern District that they had evidence to support any claim like that. Further, Democrat staff later asked Mr. Barr the following. Democrat staff, so in your experience, you have no doubt if SDNY prosecutors saw evidence of a crime, they would have followed that evidence, and if it led to an indictment, they would have indicted, and if it led to a conviction, they would have followed the facts where they led. Is that fair? Mr. Barr, yes. For that group, I also feel, that they would have done the same for Clinton, I believe. I think, remember this stuff also went on under President Biden's administration, and they were looking for something to bring against President Trump. And this was, if they had evidence, this would have been low-hanging fruit. I was never informed of the evidence, and I'm skeptical there is any. I think we all are, because he is 100% correct. Low-hanging fruit, dude, they would have just been all over that, and everybody knows it. They had to fabricate shit. They had to fabricate the Russia hoax. They had to blow up the phone call with the whole attorney general from Ukraine to but to actually impeach the president over a fucking phone call. I mean, give me a break. All right, so we got number two. Then came Alexander Acosta. Democrats tried to smear Trump by linking him to Epstein via the 2007 case, but Acosta crushed their narrative. He testified that he never spoke, emailed, or had any contact with Trump about Epstein. None ever. Mr. Robert Garcia, so you never, the entire time you were U.S. attorney, you never once spoke to Donald Trump, Mr. Acosta, the entire time. Let me be more clear. I did not speak with President Trump, with Donald Trump, before I was considered for Secretary of Labor. Garcia, you never had a phone conversation, also not just a meeting, never a any kind of conversation with Donald Trump before. And then Acosta, I did not have an in-person conversation. I did not have a phone conversation. Mr. David Min, email? Mr. Acosta, we hadn't shaken hands. Mr. Suha, what about with any of his associates? Mr. David, email, text, any of that? Mr. Acosta, no email to my recollection, no text to my recollection, no associates to my recollection. He moved in circles that I did not move in, to be honest. Ms. Melanie Stansbury, did the FBI interview Donald Trump or speak to him with regards to his case? To this case. Acosta, I have. Again, I did not direct the investigation. If our prosecutors thought they should pursue that lead, they were free to pursue that lead. If a prosecutor thought, and then he was interrupted, but it is possible that they did based on their relationship. Now, Costa, I have no knowledge that any person spoke to Donald Trump with respect to Epstein. I have no knowledge of Donald Trump's name appearing in any Epstein document. I have no knowledge of Donald Trump being associated with the Epstein investigation in any way. I'm not saying that he wasn't, because I can't speak on behalf of the many, many attorneys and case agents involved. I can simply say I have no knowledge of that. And let me also say, I think if there was, I think it's pretty spectacular it hasn't leaked by now. But that's just speculation. It's basically the same thing that William Barr said. Number 3. So what did Democrats do? They leaked 3 cherry-picked emails out of 23,000 pages, then made their own redactions to hide exonerating facts. One name they blacked out, Virginia Gifford. Not familiar with her, but I'm sure she's quite relevant. Why? Because she publicly said she never saw Trump do anything wrong. There you go. And emails, I wish they would let me zoom in, but it's X, won't let me do it. So this is Gmax from Gmax1 at ELLMAX.com. Okay, so here, hold on. From Jeffrey Epstein. Let me read the bottom one first, because I always forget emails. The oldest is at the bottom. All right, so from Jeffrey Epstein to Gmax, I'm assuming Ghislaine Maxwell. I want you to realize that that dog hasn't barked is Trump. Virginia spent hours at my house with him. He has never once been mentioned, police chief, etc., in 75% there. Or I'm 75% there. I misspoke. All right, and then Ghislaine Maxwell says, I have been thinking about that, ... So there you have it. So this was the one the one on the left is the one sent by the Epstein estate. So this is the unredacted version. The one on the right is the one that I read last week when the Democrats released all that bullshit. And this is released by oversight Democrats with Virginia Gifford's name redacted. And I distinctly remember that. I remember them blocking out a few things. They blocked out a couple of, like, not to and from. They blocked out a couple other points in the email from last week. They shared 3 of them in total. All right, so there's that. Number 4, another Democrat redaction for their hoax, Prince Andrew. Why? Because the redacted context changes the email. They were fabricating a smear campaign, not telling the truth. So this was, all right, let's start with the one on the right. This is the one released by oversight Democrats with Prince Andrew's name redacted. And I probably remember this one too. Yeah, to Michael Wolff from Jeffrey Epstein, which is his other account, jeevacation@gmail.com. And they have redacted, Mar-a-Lago, redacted. Trump said he asked me to resign. Never a member ever. Of course, he knew about the girls as he asked Ghislaine to stop. I definitely remember that email. Because, like, I pointed out the fact that, like, okay, well, if he's talking about Donald Trump, which nowhere on this email says Donald Trump, and if Donald Trump's name was on the email, why would they have redacted it? But it says, of course, he knew about the girls as he asked Ghislaine to stop. To stop what? Trafficking girls? That was my first assumption. So Trump is telling them to stop doing what they're doing. At least that was my interpretation of the email from last week. So anyway, they removed the redactions over here on the left sent by the Epstein estate. Blank worked at Mar-a-Lago. She was the one that accused Prince Andrew. Trump said how stupid of me. Yeah, Trump's name is on the email. Fucking retarded. All right, so Trump said he asked me to resign. Never a member ever. Of course, he knew about the girls as he asked Ghislaine to stop. But still, that doesn't change my opinion of the email. I mean, if anything, Trump is asking them to stop what the fuck they're doing with regard to trafficking children. All right, so let's move on. Oh, shit. Wait, where do we go? Okay, yeah, we already did that. Here we go. That actually might have been the last one. But let me just double check. Let me make sure. That was the one we just went over. Okay, so there is another. Then, part 5. Then they lied about who did the redactions. Rep. Crockett and others went on CNN pretending they had no idea who made the edits. CNN corrected them live, saying Democrats made the redactions. Watch. Oh, dude, this is going to be juicy. All right, Oversight Committee. Brutal. Jasmine Crockett gets called out live by CNN for Democrats redacting Epstein documents to try to smear President Trump with their fake narrative. CNN, quote, she did not accuse, okay, whatever, I'm not going to read all the quotes because we're going to hear it right here in the video. So let's take a listen.
This is an email from April 2nd, 2011. Republicans are saying that victim is Virginia Giuffre. As you know, she died by suicide. She's been very outspoken, victim of Jeffrey Epstein. Here's the email right here on your screen. She wrote a book, as you know, and she did not accuse him of any wrongdoing. What do you make of that?
She wrote a whole fucking book?
Yeah, I don't know. Obviously, it's redacted who the victim is, so I won't necessarily take the Republicans' word on who it is that's redacted. And I don't know why they would necessarily redact someone's name who is deceased at this point.
The Democrats did that, though. The Democrats redacted.
No. I understand,
okay,
but I'm just saying, like,
she understands.
Our biggest concern is to actually make sure that we are protecting victims, and obviously, she wrote a book. She told her truth.
Yeah, and also trying to smear President Trump over shit he never fucking did in the first place. Dude, if that doesn't show you how evil Democrats are, I don't know what the hell is going to show you how evil they can really be. Redacting shit. And what's hilarious is that the GOP Oversight Committee just came right out with it. They removed the redaction. It's right here. Prince Andrew. Now, I guess if you want to get conspiratorially minded, put on your tinfoil hat. You know, it's extremely easy to fake an email. It's like the easiest possible thing that you can do with regard to faking shit. So, yeah, I guess technically they could have just thrown in the name Prince Andrew, and we don't 100% really know, but that's the whole point with the Democrats. They want to sow the seeds of confusion. That's probably I'm surprised that wouldn't have been their answer. No, it wasn't Prince Andrew. Like the Republicans, they just wrote that in there to try to steer the conversation away from President Trump. All right. So let me just check one more time, for fuck's sakes. Let me just make sure that was the last one. I think it was. Oh, it wasn't. Oh my God, dude. What the hell? The hell am I doing tonight? All right, number 6. We released everything, 23,000 pages. Well, Trump said 50,000. Suddenly, the same Democrats who spent months screaming release the files told the New York Times that doing so was meant to disorient and distract. So much for transparency. From the New York Times, Democrats claimed that the sheer volume of the release on Wednesday was intended to disorient. Number 7, then the fake and dishonest New York Times quietly edited their piece, removing the word disorient with no editor's note. And I bet they edited it at like 4:35 in the freaking morning. Probably, like a Sunday morning or Monday or some shit. It's usually when they edit their articles. It's like as early can possibly be when nobody's paying attention. And then when they do edit it, I mean, look, they said they didn't even add an editor's note. But when they do add an editor's note, they'll put it in the smallest font on the article, and they'll put it all the way down at the very end of the article, saying editor's note in like 4-point font where you could barely read it. That's the tactics they employed. That's the mainstream media for you. All right. So anyway, the fake honest. Let's see. Okay. So they're literally helping Democrats rewrite history after their hoax fell apart. Disinformation in real time. Scandal, the fake and dishonest New York Times is colluding with Democrats by editing their Epstein stories. Original version, Dems accused us of trying to disorient the public by releasing all the Epstein docs we have. New version, that word's gone. Why? Because the hoax against President Trump backfired. No editor's note, no corrections. Glenn Thrush, Annie Carney, and Devlin Barrett are running comms for the DNC, not journalism. Fake news journalist Epstein's story edited after Democrat hoax is exposed. On November 12, 2025, Democrats claim that the sheer volume of the release on Wednesday was intended to disorient and distract attention from their revelations about Mr. Trump's actions during the time he and Mr. Epstein were close. November 13th, Democrats claimed that the sheer volume of the release was intended to distract attention from their revelations about Mr. Trump's actions during the time he and Mr. Epstein were close. All right, so let's go back. See if there's another one, number 8. But here's what no one is talking about. In 2019, Democrat Stacey Plaskett was texting with Jeffrey Epstein during an actual House hearing. Epstein helped Plaskett question a discredited witness who hated Trump, none other than Michael Cohen. Holy shit, dude. Talk about a bombshell, man.
Was president of the United States. And while we were once driving through a struggling neighborhood in Chicago, he commented that only black people could live that way. Attorney-client privilege, yes, I will turn it over.
You, as my friend Mr. Meadows pointed out, misled this committee even today in a written submission that contradicted your testimony. You have suggested you are going to review that. Are you going to review it in our next break to correct the record, yes or no?
Yes.
Question, you helped out the president's campaign. or were involved in the campaign as a representative, as a spokesman.
Quick, I'm up
even in
next.
your words
Is that an
today,
acronym?
was your
That's
idea
his
for the
assistant.
campaign dating back to 2011. Is that accurate, yes or no?
Yes.
Mr. Weisenberg and other individuals, Ms. Rona. Who are those individuals? Are they with the Trump organization?
They
and
are.
Are there other people that we should be meeting with?
So Alan Weisselberg is the chief financial officer.
Oh my God, dude, this is so fucked up, man.
You got to quickly give us as many names as you can so we can get to them.
Yes, ma'am.
Is Ms. Rona, what is Ms. Rona's position?
Rona Graff is Mr. Trump's executive assistant.
And would she be able to corroborate many of the statements that you've made here?
Yes, her office is directly next to his, and she's
Oh my God, dude.
involved in a lot.
These people are psychopathically obsessed with President Trump. I think we're all clear as to why they're so psychopathically obsessed with trying to stop President Trump. I mean, it's not him, the person. It's the position. It's the idea. The idea that somebody could just barge right in and become president, and they don't have to kiss the ring. They don't have to bow to any fucking party. That they could just go right in. They don't have to ascend up the ladder, taking decades to do so before they can become president and get the establishment's blessing. Him being the wrench, being tossed into the machine, trying to upset their 2030 Great Reset agenda. But not that I'm going to get conspiratorial or anything. All right, so number 9. While Plaskett worked with Epstein to attack Trump, Democrats now want you to believe they care about the victims. They don't. They ignored Clinton's connections, buried exculpatory facts, and made targeted redactions to select documents to smear President Trump. Shameful. Number 10. The New York Post front page said it best. Dirty clicks. The Epstein bombshell blew up in their faces. 23,000 pages prove it was another Democrat hoax buried by media allies trying to bail them out. Epstein bombshell falls apart. Lapdog laptop media falls for another Dem mudslinging Trump hoax. Dirty clicks. And then number 11, enough with the lies. We've released all the documents, 65,000 pages to date. No cherry picking, no cover-ups. Democrats, they only released 9. Americans deserve the full truth, not whatever version helps Democrats spin another hoax. Read our memo exposing the truth. And not sure how long that's going to be, but I'll just take a quick look. I mean, if it's real short, I'll read it, but if not, I'll just leave it linked below. And I'll even put a label on the link just to direct you straight to it if you're interested. Where is it? Where the hell's the memo? Staff memorandum. Oh, okay, here it is. It's a document. Oh, yeah, dude, this is a long memo. Actually, it basically covers what we already went over, it looks like, because there's William Barr's testimony. Okay, so there might be a little bit. Oh, no, yeah, see, we got the gist of it. But regardless, I'll leave this linked in the description below if you want to have a look over that for yourself. It's a PDF, which you can download. The 65,000 documents, I'm curious where that might be for the public to comb over if they really wanted to. I mean, of course, no single person's going to be able to, go through 65,000 pages, but surely it's online somewhere. I mean, it's got to be downloadable somewhere, I'm sure. All right. So, yeah, that just happened. Absolutely wild, man. This comes from Newsmax. House Republicans are likely to vote to release the Epstein files in order to take the political weapon out of the hands of Democrats. Newsmax's congressional correspondent Kilmany Duchart reports. And they should have been doing this all along, man. They should have just said, okay, fine, Democrats, you can have whatever you want with regard to the Epstein files. But wouldn't surprise me if it's been Democrats who've been dragging their feet on this because they just want to keep that out in the spotlight. They want to distract everybody away from what's actually happening with the Democratic Party. The fact that they're in absolute free fall, they're in chaos, they have no leadership, they're splintering, they fractured, and they're being taken over by radical Marxists. And they want to deflect by pointing all the fingers at, oh, Trump and Epstein, and the whole health insurance thing, but it's not our problem, even though it's called Obamacare. It's not our problem. All right, so anyway, this one's a little bit long, but I'm sure it's important, it's relevant. It's on Newsmax.
Head out now to Capitol Hill, where we
watch.
find our congressional correspondent, Kilmany Duchart, back with us after welcoming a brand new baby girl. Congratulations. I got to tell you, I was very happy to see your name in my email inbox this morning. Hope baby's well.
Sean, I am very
Keep having
thank
kids.
you so much.
Use
Everybody's
all the kids
doing terrific.
we can possibly
and
get
it's so great
in this
to be
country.
back with our Newsmax family. Didn't miss much while I was gone, right? An entire government shutdown. But alas, here we are to one of the hottest topics on Capitol Hill right now, and that is the potential release of the Epstein files. We are expecting the House to vote on that this week. House Speaker Mike Johnson says he's eager to take the weapon out of the hands of Democrats.
But don't quote me on that.
Going on to call this their entire game plan. This was, of course, after last week's massive push by Republican Congressman Thomas Massie and Democrat Ro Khanna to get those files released and get lawmakers on the record.
Yeah,
I think
let's
we
do
could
it,
have
man.
a deluge of
Get this shit over with.
There could be 100 or more. I'm hoping to get a veto-proof majority on this legislation when it comes up for a vote.
Look, how much you want to bet they're going to release all the remaining documents that they have, which they should have released it all to begin with, but there's going to be redactions. That's probably the reason why they were withheld in the first place. Probably because there's a lot of names, a lot of victims' names, a lot of information that they don't want the public to know, like just for the sake of keeping a lot of the victims anonymous. I mean, after all, there were over 1,000 victims. So we're going to see a lot of redacted material. The Democrats are going to be screaming at Republicans that, oh, you redacted everything. You redacted Trump's name out of everything. I already know. This shit's too easy, man. That's exactly what they're going to end up doing.
And the issue has made an enemy out of some of Trump's closest allies, including Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene, who the president now refers to as a traitor.
Okay,
Trump
that's a weird photo
if
they chose.
Democrats had something on him, they would have released it. Republican Congressman Don Bacon supports making the DOJ release those unclassified portions to get everything out in the open.
When this comes on the floor, I'm going to vote yes on it. I want transparency. We want to protect the victims, but everything else should be open.
Yeah, until the Democrats accuse Republicans of redacting Trump's name from the documents that they'll release.
Pushing back on what the GOP calls the Democrats' anti-Trump narrative.
Hey, we just had a look at that.
Back to focusing on their agenda, but the conversation is unlikely to shift potentially until those files, Sean, are made public. And that is a big open question in the Senate, where I am right now, where it's a subject of much debate, whether the Republican majority leader intends to put that on the floor. Sean?
Yeah, and Kilmeny, there seems to be
oh man,
more,
could you imagine if he refuses?
More information that's coming to light several years ago.
Get it over
there
with,
was
man.
A 2019 hearing that took
pressing
place
him to do
where
so.
now the Washington Post put this report out. I want you to watch the video here. That is the Democrat Stacey Plaskett of the Virgin Islands, the Congresswoman.
By the way, how the fuck does she get on a committee when she's a delegate? I thought delegates had no ability to be on committees in the House. I mean, because the Virgin Islands isn't a U.S. state. So what the hell is she doing on a freaking committee? Obviously, they've got the ability to do so. That just surprises me.
And then at the bottom, I want you to watch the messages. These are reportedly, according to the Washington Post, the late Jeffrey Epstein.
Because I believe they can't vote on legislation.
In real-time texting,
because they're not
House
U.S.
Democrat Stacey Plaskett about Michael Cohen and answering, going back and forth with a congresswoman sitting on the panel. So what appears to be,
hey, guess where Epstein Island is?
Watching this in real
in the Virgin Islands.
Having access,
of course it is,
to a representative there, feeding her
I bet she's been there a few
questions.
times.
Are we rolling the video?
Yeah, we're watching the video here. I don't know if you're able to see.
I was going to say, where's
There's
the sound?
No sound, but this is with Trump's attorney,
I
Michael
can't see
Cohen.
the playback. Yeah, Sean,
no
I think
sound.
what this plays into right now is what we're seeing. You know, this morning, again, as I mentioned, we obtained this Newsmax copy of this GOP oversight memo that's going out to all members, and they're trying to diffuse.
Well, when I was playing this earlier, I had to boost the sound too.
That we're seeing with regard to this issue.
It's not
and they're
muted,
not
it's just
going
really
after
quiet.
Plaskett, actually. They're going after a number of House Republicans, including the ranking Democrat on the House Oversight Committee, Robert Garcia, referring to statements that he made after testimony in 2019 from the former Attorney General, Bill Barr.
Just based off this bullshit that she's doing right here, they should ban all phones from the committee when they're in here, when they're in session. They should just take all their phones. They do the same shit when they go into classified briefing rooms and stuff, right? I'm pretty sure they confiscate phones, or they make you put your phone in a basket outside the room. Should do the same thing for for congressional hearings now.
Referring to transcribed testimony that, again, they believe clears the president of any wrongdoing in this scandal. And they've also gone after Democratic Congresswoman Jasmine.
I wonder what Jim Jordan's thinking now that he knows what she did at the time. He's like, wow, man, like right in fucking front of me, literally right under my nose.
That she's made in the past. So where we've seen Republicans try to
because he's probably the ranking member, I would think.
There's a market shift, not just from the president, but also from Republicans on the Hill talking here about how Democrats have a role to play on this. And again, how they have cherry-picked some of those 20,000 pages to try to implicate the president in all of this when they say that, of course, that he has been cleared of any wrongdoing. But that's the whole point of the subject of voting this week.
Obviously, the hoax is that Trump was involved.
Is to let people see those pages for themselves and make their own decision. Sean?
Yeah, great point. All right, Kilmeny Dukart. Kilmeny, welcome back. So glad.
But that's like whenever Trump mentions hoax, that's obviously what he's talking about. The hoax is that Trump was involved with Jeffrey Epstein and the absolute absurd nightmare that he was engaged with. However, Democrats, whenever he says that it's a hoax, they always fire back with, oh, you're saying that the whole Epstein thing was just a big hoax, that there's no victims, and Ghislaine Maxwell's not rotting in prison right now for trafficking minors. That's just how evil Democrats are. There's just really no limit to how evil they can really be. All right, from the White House with the golden arches, and of course that's talking about tonight, President Trump speaking at the McDonald's summit on the economy and more. Quote, the Biden administration started the affordability crisis, but President Trump will end it so all Americans can achieve economic prosperity. There's an article from Axios, which I'll link, but I'm not interested in looking at that, at least not right now, because I've got the video of President Trump, which was just done. He just about 2 hours ago when he took the stage. We'll take a look at this. All right. I know that's copyrighted. YouTube gets mad whenever that song plays, so I'm gonna try to get it to where he starts speaking.
Beautiful song off, but let's get to business, right? And I want to congratulate you. You are with an incredible company, and I'm thrilled to be here with the men and the women.
Of course, I'm not going to play the whole thing. It will be linked below if you want to watch the rest of it.
Most admired and most successful companies in the history of the world, frankly. The one and only McDonald's. I've gone there a couple of times. And I'm honored to stand before you as the very first
to have reasonable prices once upon a time.
McDonald's fry cook ever to become president of the United States.
Yeah, locally, they're double hamburgers. You know, you can get a single hamburger. Like, they used to be 79 cents back in the day. A hell of a lot cheaper even before then, but I'm talking when I was young. There was 79 cents for the hamburger, 89 cents for the regular cheeseburger. You can get the double hamburger. The double hamburger, I'm sure back then was like 99 cents or whatever. I went to McDonald's last week. The double hamburger is $3 for a double hamburger. I think that the single was like $2.20 or $2.25 or something like that. Absolutely absurd. You can eat a double hamburger in 4 bites, and it's $3. That's damn near, it's almost a freaking $1 a bite. It's crazy.
30 minutes, and that was 30 minutes
longer
than Kamala was there, right? Despite her job at McDonald's, that didn't work out too well. And the person at McDonald's that informed us off the record that she never worked there, whoever you are, we appreciate that. That was very nice. But I want to thank, as you know, the famous Sundar and Sergey Brin. These are two guys that own and run a place called Google. They called me the following day after I did that McDonald's little skit, because it wasn't a commercial.
No, not a skit. Nothing. It was a shift.
It was
you worked a shift.
And they told me that and I didn't know them. I said, who are they? They own Google. I said, that's pretty good.
I mean, you learned how to cook fries.
And that it received more hits than anything else in the history of Google, and that records, it still stands. So congratulations on...
Wow,
congratulations
that's true? Holy shit.
On allowing us to use it, but you made a very good deal as usual. But you know, in the old days, McDonald's and many others would call me to do this kind of a thing.
Yeah, his campaign manager was a genius for that.
Talk, and they'd pay
the same
me
with the garbage truck.
Dollars.
That was also genius.
Likewise, they'd do it. They'd call others only superstars, and they'd pay them millions of dollars to speak. And as president, I'm doing this damn thing for nothing. Okay? And you know what? Because it's you, it's an honor to do it, and it's an honor to be here. It really, the job that McDonald's has done is incredible and that you're doing. But as you may have heard, I'm also one of your all-time most loyal customers. I really am. Well, other, I think that's good.
Y'all
pretty
fatten
sure
me
that's
up.
good. While other politicians fly around on campaign planes stocked with expensive catering, on Trump Force One, prior to ascending to Air Force One, which is quite a nice plane also, we served only McDonald's.
You know, that was hilarious back, when was it, 2020? He probably did it in 2016 also, when Democrats were given campaign speeches in the same city that he happened to be in, and he would troll them by flying like right over their campaign rally with the Trump Force One with giant Trump on the side of the plane. I remember seeing some of those videos.
Almost every time, on occasion, we couldn't find one, which is pretty hard to believe. We'd go another route, but we really did. You fed us very well, and I even got Bobby Kennedy to eat a Big Mac.
Oh, yeah,
I
remember
he loved
that.
It. He didn't want that publicized. He told me he loved it.
Yeah,
He thought it was great.
he didn't.
I want to thank McDonald's chairman and CEO, Chris Kempczinski, who I just met backstage. I guess gave him a little piece of my speech signed. I said, do you want to keep this? You can either hang it, you can give it to somebody, you can throw it away. I don't care. But I don't stay on the speech too long anyway, so usually those speeches aren't too accurate, what I give. But McDonald's USA president is here, Joe Erlinger. Joe, wherever you may be, thank you very much. Thank you, Joe. Good job, along with everyone from the International Franchise Association, which does really fantastic work. You do, I've heard from many people you do a fantastic job. So thanks as well to two former McDonald's operators now serving in Congress, Representative Kevin Hern and Chuck Edwards. Are you here, fellas? Come on, fellas.
Of course, you're going to bring him up on stage.
And they're warriors, those two.
Oh,
they're
okay,
warriors. Thank you very much. Great job. And of course, let me thank the people who truly keep the McDonald's magic alive, the incredible franchisees, and you got a lot of them here tonight. Probably
All right,
never
let's see if we
will.
can get
I don't
into
know
a
if
little
anybody can ever catch
the
it.
meat
I
and
doubt
potatoes.
it. Every single day you feed an incredible 1% of the entire world population, 70 million meals every day.
A day?
An amazing
Holy
1
shit.
in 8 Americans works behind the counter of a McDonald's franchise at some point in their lives. Yeah,
Oh, wow.
we heard
1 in
about that.
8?
I heard about that. Wasn't true in that particular case, but for tens of millions of our citizens, the road to the American dream starts beneath the golden arches, beautiful golden arches. So to each and every one of you, thank you and congratulations on 70 years of American greatness. Congratulations. And,
All right, well, I'll just cut it there.
This is also the golden.
And I'll have that linked, of course. And he gets into the economy and things like that from my understanding. I haven't seen it yet, of course. I'll watch it after the episode's done, but got a lot to get through. I try to keep these episodes as close to an hour and a half to 2 hours. I try not to go too long over. And how long was that speech again? It was like better part of an hour, wasn't it? Yeah, 49 minutes. Yeah, so definitely too long to play it in its entirety, but it'll be below. Just click and watch. Of course, once the episode's over. All right, let's head down to the next one that we've got from the White House. United Nations Security Council acknowledges and endorses President Trump's Board of Peace. This is from Donald J. Trump's True Social. Congratulations to the world on the incredible vote of the United Nations Security Council just moments ago, acknowledging and endorsing the Board of Peace, which will be chaired by me and include the most powerful and respected leaders throughout the world. This will go down as one of the biggest approvals in the history of the United Nations, will lead to further peace all over the world, and is a moment of true historic proportion. Thank you to the United Nations and all of the countries on the UN Security Council. China, Russia, France, the United Kingdom, Algeria, Denmark, Greece, Guyana, South Korea, Pakistan, Panama, Sierra Leone, Slovenia, and Somalia. Also, thank you to those countries that weren't on this committee, but strongly backed the effort, including Qatar, Egypt, United Arab Emirates, the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, Indonesia, Turkey, and Jordan. The members of the board and many more exciting announcements will be made in the coming weeks. And this is from Secretary Marco Rubio. Today's UN Security Council resolution endorsing President Trump's 20-point peace plan is a historic milestone in building a peaceful and prosperous Gaza governed by the Palestinian people, not Hamas. President Trump is advancing real measurable change in the region. With this vote, we're closer than ever to achieving a demilitarized, de-radicalized, and stable Gaza. So the UN gave the official approval for the peace. What do they call it again? The Board of Peace. That's what it was. Yep, they made it happen. And Ambassador Mike Waltz, today the UN Security Council took a historic vote on Gaza, advancing President Trump's bold 20-point peace plan, or 20-point plan, a decisive step toward lasting peace. And it says there's 4 posts here. Now begins the hard work, achieving a demilitarized, de-radicalized, and self-governing Gaza, the core vision of Trump's 20-point plan. The challenges are immense, but leadership rises to meet them. I thank key Security Council members and regional partners for their support and vision. Together, we are advancing Trump's historic blueprint for peace and showing what global cooperation can achieve. The United States will continue working closely with partners to ensure swift implementation of this resolution. Through Trump's plan and strong partnerships, we can turn this historic vote into lasting results. And again, by the way, so Ambassador Mike Waltz, he is the ambassador, U.S. representative to the United Nations. So he's the ambassador to the UN. And got this from usun.usmission.gov. Explanation of vote following the adoption of a U.S. drafted UN Security Council resolution on the situation in the Middle East. Assuming it's a bit lengthy, which of course it is. Again, that'll be linked. You want to take a look at his letter to the United Nations, and we will move it along, I think, to the next topic. Yep, the Supreme Court agreed on Monday to hear a defense by President Donald Trump's administration of the government's authority to limit the processing of asylum claims at ports of entry along the U.S.-Mexico border. And this is on Newsmax, Supreme Court to review government's asylum power. The Supreme Court agreed on Monday to hear a defense by President Donald Trump's administration of the government's authority to limit the processing of asylum claims at ports of entry along the U.S.-Mexico border. The court took up the administration's appeal of a lower court's determination that the metering policy, under which U.S. immigration officials could stop asylum seekers at the border and decline to process their claims, violated federal law. The policy was rescinded by former President Joe Biden, but Trump's administration has indicated it would consider resuming it. The Supreme Court is expected to hear the case and issue a ruling by the end of June, so it's going to take a while. The metering policy is separate from the sweeping ban on asylum at the southern border that Trump issued after returning to the presidency on January 20th. That policy also faces a legal challenge. Under U.S. law, a migrant who arrives in the U.S. may apply for asylum and must be inspected by a federal immigration official. The legal issue in the case is whether asylum seekers who are stopped on the Mexican side of the border have arrived in America. Well, plus, it's been my understanding that if someone is trying to seek asylum in the U.S., that first they must prove that they have sought asylum in the nearest country bordering their country that is not war-torn or isn't religiously persecuting that individual or what have you, that they can't just skip over a bunch of countries and just arrive in America and claim asylum, that they have to go to the nearest country of peace first. And if they're denied asylum there, then they might be able to take the step to apply for asylum in the U.S. At least that's my understanding of it. U.S. immigration officials began turning away asylum seekers at the border in 2016 under former President Barack Obama amid a migrant surge. The metering policy was formalized in 2018 during Trump's first term, with border officials permitted to decline processing asylum claims when ports of entry were at capacity. Biden rescinded the policy in 2021. Of course they did. Trump's administration has repeatedly asked the Supreme Court to let it proceed with policies that lower courts have impeded after casting doubt on their legality. The court in interim rulings has backed Trump in most of these cases. For instance, it has let Trump deport migrants to countries other than their own without offering a chance to show harm they may face and to revoke temporary legal status previously granted by the government on humanitarian grounds to hundreds of thousands of migrants. Could you imagine if the Supreme Court was majority liberal, that every single illegal that poured into our country during the Biden administration, not a single one probably would have been deported. I doubt any of them would have been. And the criminals that committed crimes in the U.S., yeah, they would probably go to prison, but maybe even not. They'd be given no cash bail. They probably wouldn't even go to prison. They'd just keep committing crimes over and over again. And if they were to go to prison, they would get out and then they would just continue to do whatever it is that they want to do right here in the U.S. Okay, Homeland Security, President Trump and Secretary Noem will not back down from their mission to make America safe again. North Carolina's sanctuary politicians are protecting the nearly 1,400 criminal illegal aliens in Charlotte's jails by refusing to turn them over to ICE, ultimately releasing these monsters into North Carolina's neighborhoods.
If you're in this country illegally, you made two choices, not just to enter the country illegally or stay in the country illegally, but now you have a choice as well. You can leave now, take a $1,000 exit bonus, free flight home, and then potentially return the right legal way. But if you don't, the message is very clear. We will arrest you, but I also think that there are more facts here as well. There's about 1,400 criminal illegal aliens that right now are in North Carolina in Charlotte's jails that they refuse to turn over to ICE law enforcement. If those sanctuary city politicians would work with us and actually let us into their jails to take out these MS-13 gang members, murderers, serial child rapists, which I've seen these lists of people, they are heinous individuals who are in these jails. If they are released back into Charlotte and not turned over to ICE, they will go on to re-perpetuate crime.
Oh, yeah, they will. But the ICE agents, they're going to go hunt them down. That's what they've been doing in Chicago and LA and all the other cities because they let them out of jail and then ICE has to go hunt them down. And they, of course, with the protesters or rioters, they make a big public spectacle out of it. All right, Homeland Security, anti-ICE radicals are so desperate to demonize American law enforcement that they are creating AI videos to gin up hate. Their reality, these disgusting smears and lies are fueling the 1,000% increase in assaults and nearly 8,000% increase in death threats against our brave ICE officers. The sickos spreading this filth must stop before they get someone killed. And this is from the New York Post. Videos on social media sites like Facebook show intense, dramatic scenes of federal agents detaining migrants, many of which are racking up hundreds of thousands of views each. The catch? They're fake. They're AI. Not real.
Ma'am, stop resisting. Keep moving.
You can't take me from her, please. She's right there. Don't do this. She's just a baby.
Get her in the vehicle.
Dude, that is so obviously AI. You notice that officer standing behind him like a statue.
Federal agents detaining migrants, many of which are racking up hundreds of thousands of views each. The catch? They're fake and made by AI. The latest in the scary trend of videos created by artificial intelligence can be prominently seen on the Facebook account USA Journey 897. The account, which was flagged by independent researcher Chad Loader to 404 Media, a journalist-founded organization focusing on digital media, features dozens of AI-generated videos of the same theme. Many of the AI videos posted by the page show workers at prominent U.S. chains like McDonald's or Walmart being ushered into vans by federal agents as they plead to see their kids.
Yeah,
Others show mothers
fake.
and fathers being emotionally ripped away from their weeping children.
But a lot of people believe it. Of course they do.
Instruct the parents,
especially
to
the
put
liberals,
their hands behind their back. The videos, which are garnering tens, even hundreds of thousands of views, do not bear an AI watermark, but all display the same superimposed text, reading "deportation," along with emojis and a pair of American flags. While some of the videos note in their captions that they are created by AI for, quote, entertainment and creative purposes only, many do not, leaving viewers who don't know any better to discern their validity for themselves.
These people are evil. That's not what AI was intended to do, but they're doing it anyway. Rapid Response 47, the president on Venezuela, quote, "I don't rule out anything. They dumped hundreds of thousands of people into our country, many of them already criminals because Venezuela emptied out their prisons and sent them all up here. I'm not in love with the people running Venezuela." No, I'm sure he's not.
You suggested you've made a decision about what you want to do next about Venezuela. I understand you don't want to tip your hand. Is there anything you're ready to rule out at this point? Are you ruling out U.S. troops on the ground?
No, I don't rule out that. I don't rule out anything. We just have to take care of Venezuela. They dumped hundreds of thousands of people into our country from prisons. Nobody knows better than this young lady right here. She's done an incredible job.
I remember reading about that.
Tom Homan and all of your people have been amazing. You know, we have a tight border right now. Nobody comes in. But we had millions of people pouring through. A year ago, we had millions of people pouring through our border. And many of them came from Venezuela, including Tren de Aragua, the gang. And I guess what I'm hearing, Christy, is that's as bad a gang as there is anywhere in the world.
It's the worst. Absolutely,
is that actually
sir. Absolutely.
Even worse than MS-13?
I mean, they're worse than MS-13.
They're killers. They
I swear to God, I've not seen this
yet.
I don't watch these videos. I react accordingly.
They grew up. They're horrible people.
Now, we had a lot of them, and many of them, most of them, pretty soon, most of them are going to be out. But they sent them in like we're a dumping ground. So I'm not in love with the people running Venezuela. I love Venezuela. I love the people of Venezuela. But what they've done to this country.
Beautiful
country.
And I really
say this, what Biden and the Democrats have done to this country can never, ever be forgotten.
No, absolutely not. Not ever forgotten. And God forbid another Democrat takes over and they retain or they get Congress back. It's going to happen again. It's going to happen again. Of course it's going to happen again. Tricia McLaughlin, false. ICE didn't raid a church, but they were right that I would post on Monday and debunk this crap. So this is from Sam Stein. Lost in legitimately major news this weekend is just how inhumane and aggressive ICE's first operations in Charlotte were, raiding a church, sending folks fleeing into a forest, and leaving kids crying. Thebulwark.com. All right, I'll link it, whatever. ICE shady, fresh off turning Chicago into a potpourri of civil liberty violations and civic unrest. Trump administration's immigration enforcement agencies have their sights set on new cities. Top among them is Charlotte, North Carolina, and it's going just about as inhumanely as you'd expect. Here is a dispatch from the Charlotte Observer. Hold on. So, is this an opinion piece or what? Congregants of an East Charlotte church scattered into the woods Saturday when masked federal agents arrived and detained one of their members, according to witnesses. Where's the pictures, dude? Where's the pictures? Where's the video? Everybody's got smartphones. Even illegal immigrants have smartphones. Everybody knows how to use a camera. Where's the footage, dude? About 15 to 20 church members were doing yard work on the property off Albemarle Road while their children played games and their spouses cooked meals. Agents parked just outside a closed gate leading to the church parking lot, ran into the yard to the pastor, who did not want to identify himself or his church. The agents asked no questions and showed no identification before taking one man away, whose wife and child were inside at the time. The pastor said they attempted to grab others too. Inside the church, women and children sobbed as they wondered whether their loved ones had been taken. Some yard workers fled into the surrounding woods when officials arrived, including 15-year-old Miguel Vasquez. Just to recap, immigration agents went after members of a church where children were playing. They showed no ID. They chased congregants into the woods and left women sobbing. We're sure that DHS spokeswoman Tricia McLaughlin will have some post on Monday about how all these folks were actually the offspring of a weird romantic fling between Tren de Aragua gang members and ISIS operatives. But obviously, there are less cruel, more humane ways to do this. As a side note, it appears protesters got their heads up and ran to the woods to confront ICE agents with, among other things, deafening whistles. ICE responded by threatening to throw gas canisters at him, according to a video of the confrontation. So they have a video. They got a video in the woods, and there's a church in the video. All right, so where did that link go? Let me just grab that here. Oh, yeah, okay, so it was that one. All right. The Bulwark. I'm just curious. Where's the video? I want to see the video. I'm not seeing a video or a link to it. No, I don't care about it. Yeah, this doesn't even look like it's related. Threw in the towel, writing on True Social, the House Oversight Committee can have whatever they're legally entitled to. I don't care. This is about Epstein. Yeah, it says Trump's Epstein humiliation grows. What the fuck? Where is it? Why did they give us... Yeah, it even says it right there. Trump's Epstein. Okay, well, that makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. So, yeah, I completely don't believe a single word of what I read. Nothing. There's no video. There's no confrontation. I'm not seeing shit. All right, we'll just move on to the next thing, which, by the way, yeah, Tricia McLaughlin. False. Not true. Didn't happen. Homeland Security assault on law enforcement. Today, Border Patrol agents in Charlotte faced another vehicle ramming while in a parking lot. Agents were preparing for an operation when a car jumped a curb to enter the parking lot and sped toward agents. The driver was warned to stop and back up. The driver then drove the vehicle toward the exit of the parking lot and waited to try and box in Border Patrol. As agents went to confront the driver, the car rammed a law enforcement vehicle and fled the scene. Agents pursued the aggressor, eventually stopping the car in a cul-de-sac where the driver was arrested. Probably assault with a deadly weapon. I'm assuming that's probably what they're going to get hit with. And guess what? We have a video. Charlotte, this individual assaulted federal officers. Commander Bovino explained the scene as a woman sat on the ground in handcuffs in Charlotte, North Carolina during ICE operations. According to Commander, woman was arrested for assault on a federal officer about a mile away. Let's check this out.
I talked to Mike Banks early last week, and he's telling us that no city is safe, that they will be going everywhere throughout the United States. We know that there are thousands of agents across 25 cities. Next up for Border Patrol, they're going to be going to New Orleans. They've got their sights set on this.
Yeah, she doesn't look like a progressive leftist at all. She looks like she's filled with soy, drinking all that soy milk. You can't tell if she or they or them, Z's or.
So
absolutely brain dead.
Was assault on a federal officer. This individual assaulted
there you
federal
go.
Officers at a gas station about a mile away.
Hit her with a deadly weapon too.
Engaged officers in a high-speed
vehicle's a deadly weapon.
Failed to yield to our lights and siren. She traveled down this cul-de-sac here, came to a stop, and was arrested. That's what we know right now.
Thank you. Was it a protester or?
We don't know.
Probably.
We don't know.
Good Lord, somebody doesn't touch grass very often. Of course, they've got the septum piercing. Of course, she's in the leftist cult. It's a dead giveaway. She doesn't know how to pluralize the word woman either. There are so many women out there who just do all kinds of great things. Anybody also notice that? That progressive women have no idea how to pluralize the word woman. It's hilarious. Well, that's very nice of them to cover in the front. Why did they switch back to that shot? Okay. So is this supposed to be part of the whole, like, protesters, the church? I'm sure that's probably the footage they would have shown. Maybe not, though. Dude, why so quiet? We're standing around. Skip a little bit. Doesn't look like we're going to catch a whole lot. Just kind of standing around. Going over her personal effects. Making some phone calls. Damn, dude, they had a lot of people out there. Maybe they're waiting for local police to show up, maybe? Good grief, man. Could you imagine living, like, right over there? You're like, what the fuck is going on over here? Good grief. Like the whole freaking military showed up. More of this. Well, I would hope not more of this. More of these, like, brain-dead morons doing all these stupid shenanigans because they're just absolute idiots. Probably be sentenced to prison. Was it worth it? Okay, U.S. Department of Justice. The Justice Department files a complaint challenging California mask ban and identification requirements for federal officers. Quote, law enforcement officers risk their lives every day to keep Americans safe, and they do not deserve to be doxxed or harassed simply for carrying out their duties, end quote, said AG Pam Bondi. California's anti-law enforcement policies discriminate against the federal government and are designed to create risk for our agents. These laws cannot stand. And this is going to be found on justice.gov. Justice Department files complaint challenging California mask ban and identification requirements for federal officers. Today, the Department of Justice filed a lawsuit against California. I guess I'll link that too if you want to check out the lawsuit. Governor Gavin Newsom and Attorney General Robert Bonta challenging their unconstitutional attempt to regulate federal law enforcement officers through the so-called No Secret Police Act and No Vigilantes Act. Not only are the laws illegal attempts to discriminate against and regulate the federal government, but as alleged in the complaint, the laws threaten the safety of federal officers who have faced an unprecedented wave of harassment, doxing, and even violence. Threatening officers with prosecution for simply protecting their identities and their families also chills the enforcement of federal law and compromises sensitive law enforcement operations. The danger is acute. Quote, law enforcement officers risk their lives every day to keep Americans safe. Okay, we already read all that. So, quote, the Department of Justice will steadfastly protect the privacy and safety of law enforcement from unconstitutional state laws like California's, said Assistant Attorney General Brett A. Shoemate of the Justice Department Civil Division. Quote, assaults against federal agents have exploded over the last few months, thanks in part to recklessness, political rhetoric aiming to delegitimize our brave agents, end quote, said First Assistant United States Attorney Bill Esseley of the Central District of California. Quote, unconstitutional laws such as this one further endanger our brave men and women protecting our community. Our immigration enforcement will continue unabated and unhindered by unconstitutional state laws enacted by irresponsible politicians. On her first day in office, Attorney General Bondi instructed the department's civil division to identify state and local laws, policies, and practices that facilitate violations of federal laws or impede lawful federal operations. Today's lawsuit is the latest in a series of lawsuits brought by the civil division targeting illegal policies designed to thwart federal law enforcement across the country, including in New York, New Jersey, and Los Angeles, California. And heading to the next one from CBP, following along in this first-person view of targeted enforcement of criminal illegal aliens residing in Portland, Oregon. Self-deport now, or you may find yourself on the other side of the camera. Holy moly.
Show me your hand!
Yep, rounding them up in Sanctuary City, Portland, Oregon. Keeping up the good fight. Another one from CBP. Teamwork gets the job done. CBP is proud to have worked alongside HSI HQ, and that is going to be Homeland Security, Investigations, IRS News, so I'm the IRS, and U.S. Attorney Haba on this investigation into gold trade fraud. This is from U.S. Attorney Haba. $1.2 billion in gold jewelry, $86 million in unpaid duties, fake made in USA labels, cheat our tariffs, and scam Americans. They face the consequences. So first, we'll take a look at the image. So it's all fake gold, I'm presuming, or they have it stamped as made in USA when it's not. So we'll take a look at this.
Good afternoon. This morning we are announcing charges and arrests that go to the core of an administration priority: protecting the integrity of our tariff system and ensuring that foreign companies...
Oh shit, come on, man. Why does it do that? I don't know why the hell it does that.
Good afternoon. This morning, integrity of our tariff system and ensuring that foreign companies don't cheat American workers and consumers or undercut honest businesses. The U.S. Attorney's Office for the District of New Jersey has charged Indonesian company UBS Gold and its executives and employees, Michael Yaya, Icha Anastasia, and Claudio Fogale, for their roles in an immense customs and tariff evasion scheme.
Yeah, over $1 billion.
As alleged,
kind of massive.
UBS Gold imported more than $1.2 billion worth of gold
so
and jewelry into the United States, while evading more than $86 million in lawful duties and tariffs. For years,
you's in trouble.
The defendants falsely claimed UBS Gold's products were made in Jordan, even though they had been manufactured in Indonesia to avoid duties that apply to Indonesian jewelry imports. More recently, the defendants claimed their products were made here in the United States, but they were not. The defendants...
So my question immediately is, if the Supreme Court drops the tariffs that Trump had implemented, will these charges be dropped?
Shipped scrap gold out of the country.
Probably not, because it's still fraudulent.
Finished gold jewelry back in, and then falsely represented it was made in the USA to sneak it past customs and avoid paying what they owed. Thanks to the outstanding coordination among our partners at IRS Criminal Investigation, Homeland Security Investigations, and U.S. Customs and Border Protection, this week we arrested 2 foreign national defendants who had traveled to the United States. The arrested defendants made their initial appearances in the District of New Jersey yesterday and were detained. We also executed numerous search warrants this week and seized millions of dollars of gold, false invoices, and other materials that were used in the alleged tariff evasion scheme. Duties and tariffs exist to ensure fair competition. When foreign companies lied to avoid them, they steal from American businesses and from the American people. Our message is simple. If you cheat our trade laws, we will find you and we will hold you accountable. $1.2 billion in gold jewelry, $86 million in unpaid duties, fake made in USA labels,
some heads are gonna roll over
cheat
that
our
one.
tariffs, and scam Americans face the consequences. Thank you.
Yeah, $1.2 billion, man. Yeah, somebody's, ooh, I would not want to be the person responsible for losing that kind of money. Okay, Alex. Oh, wait. Okay, yeah, so we're good. All right, Alex Pfeiffer. Reminder, Maduro and the corrupt Venezuelan government wants to flood the U.S. with cocaine to inflict the drug's harmful and addictive effects on users in this country. I can't remember which of a government official actually reposted this. I want to say it was White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt. So anyway, let's see. Nicolas Maduro Moros, the defendant, helped manage and ultimately lead the Cartel de los Soles as he gained power in Venezuela. Under the leadership of Maduro, Moros, and others, the Cartel de los Soles sought not only to enrich its members and enhance their power, but also to flood the United States with cocaine and inflict the drug's harmful and addictive effects on users in this country. Thus, whereas most drug trafficking organizations in South and Central America have sought to recede from their roles in importing narcotics into the United States in an effort to avoid U.S. prosecution, the Cartel de los Soles, under the leadership of Maduro, Moros, and others, prioritized using cocaine as a weapon against America and importing as much cocaine as possible into the United States. And it looks like that's all that they shared as far as that goes. I'm not sure what court document that was exactly, but yeah, because Democrats, I think they are making the argument that, oh no, he's not a drug lord, and Venezuela's not importing drugs into the United States. Okay, yeah, so there's Caroline Leavitt right here. So yeah, I'm sure she probably reposted that originally. She says, Marco Rubio says Nicola Maduro's Cartel de los Soles to be designated a terrorist organization, which this article can be found on Fox. Marco Rubio says Nicolas Maduro Cartel de los Soles, the designated foreign terrorist organization. Let's see. A powerful criminal network tied to Venezuela's top leadership will be labeled as an FTO, foreign terrorist organization. The move appears to be an escalation of Washington's stance toward the Venezuelan government and could lead to military action against the Maduro regime. In a statement, Rubio confirmed the U.S. will formally designate the cartel as an FTO later this month. The designation, which is to take effect November 24th, targets the criminal network allegedly led by Venezuelan strongman Nicolas Maduro and senior members of his regime. According to the State Department, based in Venezuela, the Cartel de los Soles is headed by Nicolas Maduro and other high-ranking individuals of the illegitimate Maduro regime who have corrupted Venezuela's military, intelligence, legislature, and judiciary. Neither Maduro or his cronies represent Venezuela's legitimate government, the statement read. The Cartel de los Soles, in coordination with other terrorist organizations, including Tren de Aragua and the Sinaloa Cartel, is responsible for terrorist violence across our hemisphere and for trafficking drugs into the United States and in Europe. The announced action is being taken under Section 219 of the Immigration and Nationality Act, which authorizes the State Department to designate foreign entities engaged in terrorist activity. The designation will become official once it's published in the Federal Register. Cartel de los Soles had previously been sanctioned by the U.S. Treasury Department under Executive Order 13224, which targets terrorists and those providing support to terrorism. I believe we already read that, and State Department intends to designate Cartel de los Soles as a foreign terrorist organization. State Department, okay. The statement came as President Trump reiterated that the U.S. was intent on stopping drug dealers and drugs filtering into the country. Quote, we're stopping drug dealers and drugs from coming into the country, Trump told reporters Sunday night. And I actually told Marco and some of the people of our Secretary of State is doing a great job, by the way. I said, go to Congress and let them know we're not letting drugs come through Mexico. We're not letting them come through Venezuela, he added. Trump's comments came just after he said that the government may be having discussions with Venezuela as well as confirming whether the new cartel designation would mean the U.S. government could now target Maduro's assets or infrastructure. It allows us to do that, Trump confirmed while mentioning talks with the Venezuelan leader. Quote, we may be having some discussions with Maduro and we'll see how that turns out. They would like to talk, he said before adding, we'll see what happens. And that's that. FBI Director Kash Patel. Big move from FBI Atlanta. Working with state, local, and federal partners, law enforcement shut down a major meth trafficking ring in North Georgia, sourced back to Mexico. 3,200 kilograms seized, and 12 defendants are involved. And this is from FBI Atlanta. The FBI and our partners have shut down a major meth trafficking operation in North Georgia, seizing over 3,200 kilograms of methamphetamine hidden in boxes of jalapenos from Mexico. 12 defendants now face federal charges as part of Operation Take Back America. This successful operation highlights the power of law enforcement collaboration in dismantling dangerous drug networks and protecting our communities. Now, I'm trying to think back to Breaking Bad. It's been a while since I've seen it, but if I'm not mistaken, that would take over 10 months worth of work between with Walter White and Jesse Pinkman to produce that amount of meth, because I think they had to produce. Oh wait, no, it actually might have been 300 pounds or 300 kilos a week. I think it was per week, or maybe it was per month. I don't know, man. It's been a while since I've seen Breaking Bad. All right, so there's an article that they linked, which I'll leave in the description. You want to have a look at that? That is a lot of meth, man. Over 3,000 kilos, right? Yeah, kilos. So that's like, what, damn near 7,000 pounds of methamphetamine? Wild. There's so many drugs, dude. They're finding drugs everywhere in these massive, massive quantities. Senate Republicans, Roy Cooper's soft-on-crime policies got Charlotte into this mess. The Trump administration is cleaning it up. Operation Charlotte's Web. 100 people were arrested on Saturday in Charlotte by Border Patrol and ICE. It's on CBS Weekend
Tonight,
News.
officials in Charlotte, North Carolina are urging calm amid the latest immigration crackdown. CBS's Chanel Call reports on the details of the Homeland Security's Department.
Well, if you're here legally, you got nothing to worry
Charlotte's
about.
Web. Chanel.
And Jerica, Homeland Security officials say about 100 people were arrested on Saturday in Charlotte by Border Patrol and ICE.
Yes, they were. 100 people arrested by Customs and Border Patrol and Immigration and Customs Enforcement. So this is from Libs of TikTok. OMG, Chicago public schools spent over $7 million on luxury travel for staff to Las Vegas and Egypt and Finland, Hawaii, and safaris, despite having a budget shortfall of $700 million. How do you like that?
Chicago public school system.
You think anybody's going to be held accountable?
Employees at the
Probably
cash-strapped
not.
district spent millions on trips to Las Vegas and even overseas.
Governor Pritzker,
what is up
well,
with this?
Do governors have, they've got pardoning power? Yeah, they do. On the state level, they do. And how much you want to bet he's going to do just that? He's going to pardon every last one of them if they get criminally charged
Mike
for this.
Tobin is
Would
live there
not
in the
surprise
Windy
me at all.
City. Good morning, Mike.
Good morning, Dana. The Inspector General took a look at the travel expenses of teachers and principals in the Chicago public school systems and concluded that when the bank accounts were fat with COVID money, the staff ran wild, as you mentioned, trips to Egypt, Finland, Hawaiian resorts, even went on a safari, and there was no oversight to stop them.
No, of course
the amount
not.
spent on travel in
It's deep blue
2021 was
Chicago.
$300,000. It jumped up in 2022 to $3.4 million, doubled in 2020.
Oh, shit, dude. So that's a lot more than $7 million. $7 million was just from last year. Or is this is it accumulating up to 7.7?
And kept getting bigger in 2024. The
I
report
don't think
concludes
so.
that more scrutiny was put to whether the expense
That's
paperwork
damn near
was
$20 million.
done correctly than whether the expenses were excessive. As a result, more than 90% of the traveling employees went over the allowable limits. Oftentimes, lodging
you
and
think?
airfare was double the allowable rate. One of the reasons the trips were not rejected is that they were not asking for approval. Of 15
Pay
international
restitution,
trips noted by the
randomly
Inspector
charge them.
General, 12 were never submitted for approval. And then we start seeing wildlife trips, balloon rides.
Yeah, but we
staff
did it for,
staying
like,
extra days
education,
for
you
personal
know?
reasons. And this in a school district that claims a $700 million budget hole.
That's what's
We
really
do need
appalling about
more
it.
special ed teachers, but if you can think about the fact that $7.7 million in wasted taxpayer money for balloon rides and looking at giraffes and elephants could have gone to hiring 100 of those special ed teachers.
Oh, yeah,
These are the
they
questions
could've.
that we need to be asking.
That was the Illinois
Upon release
comptroller.
of the Inspector General's report, Chicago Public Schools froze all overnight travel with this statement. This measure reflects our continued commitment to responsible financial stewardship and to prioritizing resources that directly support classrooms and students. As far as performance, less than
They're announcing a
half,
freeze.
third
Dude, where is the word arrest? Where's the word indictment?
to 8th graders are reading at grade level. Less than a quarter.
Well, we
are
suspended the
proficient
staff
in
for a
math.
week.
Dana?
Mike, it sounds like there might be more of this where that came from, unfortunately. Thank you.
Oh, I'm sure there's shitloads of it. I'm sure. That was probably just out of one single school system, probably. Or just one district out of God knows how many. Probably teachers were or principals too, were taking vacations all over the place. Well, we're not going to ask for restitution because they just don't make that much money. Senate Republicans, Democrats want to extend Biden's COVID bonuses despite massive fraud and waste. Last year, 40% of enrollees with fully subsidized plans never even filed a claim. Never filed a claim. I mean, look, I don't think that's the most crazy thing that I've ever seen ever. I mean, like I've had health insurance for a little while now, and you know, I'm going to knock on wood without finishing what I'm going to say. You know, like just because they didn't file a claim, I mean, it doesn't necessarily mean it's fraudulent. It just seems to me that they might just be a healthy individual. But I'm not saying that there's no fraud there. There's probably tons of fraud there. I'm just saying, like, not every last individual of those 40% of people, you know, are fraudulently enrolled. But I don't, you know, they would know better than me. They are the Senate Republicans. Okay, Chairman Joe Gruters. Democrats don't care that Americans were going hungry and without paychecks during the shutdown. They only care about opposing President Trump and fighting for their radical agenda. They were letting you suffer to appease the far left. This is from RNC Research 23 hours ago. Democrat Pramila Jayapal is very angry that the Democrat shutdown is over and Americans are no longer suffering. Jayapal says, I was absolutely furious. I still am. That they folded when I feel like we had just gotten the momentum, the wind behind our sails. So she would have never reopened the government. She wanted to make everybody just suffer and suffer and suffer with no food stamp money while blaming Republicans for what she was exclusively doing with the other Democrats.
Now to your questions. The first question, obviously, that a lot of people have is, what's my take on Schumer and the 8 Democrats that folded to Trump? Look, I was absolutely furious. I still am.
Trump's not in Congress.
But they folded when I feel like we just had gotten the momentum, the wind behind our sails.
Yeah, and you absolutely got nothing at all. Like nothing. Like Schumer, none of the Democrats came back with anything at all. Okay, fine. We'll scrap the 1.5 trillion. Let's ask for, I don't know, like 5 billion. Let's ask for just like a minuscule number so we can say that we won something. But no, they didn't even do that. They got absolutely nothing out of it. Rightfully so. Secretary Chris Wright, this administration will not bend to climate activists. We intend to lead with science, not speculation. The previous administration's obsession with the climate catastrophe left our citizens politically polarized and economically destroyed. And this can be found on AP News. Trump's energy secretary slams the UN climate conference in Brazil, where U.S. absence is glaring. Well, Gavin Newsom showed up. In Athens, Greece, the U.S. Energy Secretary Chris Wright on Friday condemned the COP30 environmental summit as harmful and misguided, defying the global scientific consensus and concern by governments worldwide on climate change. And I did a video earlier today from the LA Times that was scrutinizing Gavin Newsom's trip. And they were highlighting the fact that they had 2 cruise ships that were at the COP30 loaded with a bunch of elitists that were paying well over $1,000 a night to stay on this cruise, or either of those 2 cruise ships that used a ton of diesel power to, they also dredged out the Amazon River so they could bring the cruise ships into this port that they recently constructed just for the COP event. They also deforested a large section of the Amazon rainforest in the local region to build a 4-lane highway, which they never even finished because they were doing it for the COP30. They were trying to modernize the city where they were holding this event. And yeah, they even evicted locals because there were elitists that were flying in. They didn't want to stay on the cruise ship. They wanted to stay on land. They wanted to stay like actually in the city where the event was being held. So, I mean, as far as the LA Times wrote it, that they were locals were getting evicted from their homes so they can make way for the elitists flying in so they can have a place to stay. So anyway, quote, it's essentially a hoax. It's not an honest organization looking to better human lives, Wright told the Associated Press at the close of a 2-day business conference in Athens. He added that he might attend next year's summit just to try to deliver some common sense. Wright's comments came as the world leaders gathering over 5,000 miles away on the edge of the Amazon in Brazil blasted U.S. President Donald Trump for his absence from the United Nations-sponsored discussions on climate change running through November 21st. His remarks echoed the U.S. administration's rejection of global climate agreements and Trump's prioritization of fossil fuels. The U.S. will send no high-level officials to the COP30 climate summit in Brazil, the White House said on Friday. Quote, President Trump will not jeopardize our country's economic and national security to pursue vague climate goals that are killing other countries, Taylor Rogers, a White House spokesperson, said in a statement. Wright led a senior U.S. delegation to Athens for talks centered on boosting U.S. liquefied natural gas exports to Eastern Europe and Ukraine. Among them were Interior Secretary Doug Burgum, Deputy Secretaries, and the new U.S. Ambassador to Greece and close Trump ally Kimberly Guilfoyle. Or is it Guilfoyle? Guilfoyle. At the forum, top U.S. officials criticized European Union carbon reduction policies, arguing they undermine economic growth, democratic alliances, and global leadership in AI and energy innovation. And Secretary Chris Wright from the Department of Energy, a world away, leaders take aim at Trump's claims. It was a stark contrast with the Brazilian city of Belém, where world leaders at COP30 issued urgent warnings about the accelerating pace of global warming, driven in large part by emissions from burning fossil fuels like oil, gas, and coal. UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres said a moral failure to act would trigger rising hunger, displacement, and environmental damage. But yet they all flew into Brazil on their private jets, taking these gas-guzzling cruise ships. You see where we're going with this? They're a bunch of hypocrites. Of course they are. They always are. Backed by overwhelming scientific consensus, the UN reaffirmed that climate change is already underway, requiring urgent global action to prevent irreversible harm. I wish I remembered which official it was. There's some progressive lefty individual. I know who they are. Their name escapes me at the moment, but they pushed back against this climate summit actually occurring because, in his words, and I'm paraphrasing, that it makes them all look like hypocrites because they're using gas-guzzling jets and they're using all these fossil fuels to get there. And he said the whole thing should have been virtually held, that they could have done the whole thing from a virtual setting. That way they wouldn't have had to consume a whole bunch of fossil fuels to get there. But of course they didn't do that because they're not serious. They're a bunch of scammers. Latin American leaders attending COP30 in Belém took swipes at Trump for his stance on climate discussions. Quote, "Today, Mr. Trump is against humanity. His absence is proof of that." Colombia's President Gustavo Petro said in his speech on Thursday. "What should we do then? Leave him alone? Oblivion is the biggest punishment." So it looks like it goes on a bit. Oh, AP is going to interrupt me. So either way, I'll just link this because it does go on quite a bit. If you want to get the rest of that, you can check it below from AP News. And this is from the Office of the First Lady. I already chose, it was just in passing. I didn't think that I was going to put it on this episode until I realized it was from the Office of the First Lady. So they want you to choose the name of this year's presidential turkeys, as they do every year. But this year, they're doing it on X. So you can go on X and you can choose which one you want out of the four names, or the pair of names that they have chosen. Vote for your favorite name pair from the options below, courtesy of North Carolina 4-H and FFA students. Cast your vote on X and Instagram by Friday, November 21st at 12 p.m. Eastern. So I already chose. So I guess you can get the sneak preview as it stands. This was probably about 3 hours ago when I voted. Actually, these numbers are actually probably current. I'm sure they're live. 34,000 votes so far. I went with Sugar and Spice. Why not? We all got our own opinions. But Gobble and Waddle is winning at 41.7%. But you could either just go with the majority or you can make your own decision. But it's over on X. Actually, I'll repost it also. And a direct link to my X profiles in the description below too. And that should be near the top of my profile, at least for the next day. Or you can just go to @FirstLadyOffice. Or unless you have an Insta, you can go over there too. You can vote for it there. All right, so this came from Governor Newsom press office. New Trump administration profile pic just dropped. Not sure if that's actually legit. They lie constantly on this profile, so it's hard to tell if this actual profile pic was placed with the Trump administration. Like, I'm not familiar with a profile called Trump administration anyway, so not sure exactly which profile he's talking about, so I'm sure this is just fake. But anyway, that's obviously the progress of the ballroom, and they're hard at work on it. Which the what was it? The White House Emergency Response Center, like the bunker, whatever that response center that they have in the White House. Supposedly it's directly below where the ballroom's going to be. Somebody who may or may have not been conspiratorially minded shared in a comment on a video that I did a while back, where they said that the ballroom is just a cover. What they're actually doing is updating that response center, or the war room, or whatever they call it, that's in the White House. I know they have a technical name for it, but it's apparently right below here, and it kind of looks like they've got like this open pit here, so it kind of makes you wonder. So anyway, that was Governor Newsom's press office's post. Probably fake. I mean, I'm not saying the image is fake. I'm just saying like quote-unquote Trump admin profile, whatever the hell that means. And anyway, so Spencer Pratt responded by saying Newsom administration profile pic dropped on January 7th, of course, of the Pacific Palisades that is completely in ruins. because of failed administration policies. They had no water. I mean, we all know how this went. And to this day, it looks pretty much the exact same. I think they've cleared out all the lots at this point, but I don't think they've built a single house. There's like, 8,500 houses that were destroyed. Still not a single house had been built. We're coming up on a year since. Probably not going to be anything for years to come. And matter of fact, someone who is in the California Senate, they introduced a bill just 3 weeks after this fire consumed this entire, really city-sized area, Pacific Palisades. They introduced a bill that would essentially seize land from the people who own these lots, and they would take that land and they would build quote-unquote affordable housing and quote-unquote low-income housing. Well, of course, it got into the public eye, and there was a massive backlash, rightfully so. So they didn't cancel the bill completely. Instead, they just tabled it. So they're going to hang on to it until everybody forgets about it, and then they're going to probably quietly try to pass it again, like they did the first time. Just 3 weeks after that. Spoken like, that's the Democrats for you. All right, Department of War, the newest tech in warfare. Secretary of War Pete Hegseth visited DARPA, where he flew a Black Hawk by remote. The pilots were on board as a precaution, though.
An actual Black Hawk?
You're going to actually fly a Black Hawk here.
It's not a good idea.
I didn't know they had Black Hawk drones. You can remote pilot them.
So it'll be fine.
Okay. All right, to the pilots of this
like the
Black
movie
Hawk,
Alien.
Secretary Hegseth, how are you? 107.
Sure. All right. Absolute is not a check mark. It's going to replan. You got to give it a second for us to change. There's your 107. There you go.
So now you're piloting the aircraft, and this is like as hard as it is.
What the hell?
Rules of airspace. Had 1 pilot, 0 pilots. Right now, we really are pretending to be a logistician. I'm sure if you and I were sitting in the back, I would hand you a tablet, we'd go flying for an hour, operating from the back.
Well, they didn't show him actually piloting it, though. Where's the controller?
That's awesome. Just getting started.
All right, well, yeah, apparently he piloted a Black Hawk. Okay, U.S. Census Bureau. Total construction activity for August of 2025 totals $169.5 billion, was 0.2% above the revised July 2025 estimate, which was $2,165 billion. You can learn more at census.gov/construction. ... So the construction spending image. I'm assuming that this is total construction. I mean, it doesn't say residential specifically, right? It just says construction in general. So yeah, $2.1 trillion. A lot of construction. However, housing is still extremely expensive. And from the White House, new poll alert. The majority of Americans disapprove of how the Democrats handled the shutdown. Shocker. 60% of Americans disapprove of how Democrats handled the shutdown, of course. As Trump's pointing and smiling with Trump 2028 on his desk. That cracks me up. They got the Diet Cokes there. Chuck Schumer's here on the left. Hakeem Jeffries, Timu Obama's there on the right. And in order to look at Trump, their eyes have to constantly wander toward the Trump 2028 hats, which I'm sure made them just absolutely seethe on the inside. All right, Rapid Response 47. Dr. Oz with CMS, quote, "We have some major flaws with the way these COVID-era subsidies were added. The problem with the approach that was taken, it creates incentives for fraud."
The president said he will be willing to talk about these subsidies once the shutdown is over. The shutdown is over. So is he willing to extend the subsidies at all?
I think the president's willing to look at all options, but we have some major flaws with the way these COVID-era subsidies were added. And just so everyone's on the same page in this issue, our goal is to get people covered. Especially we want people covered who are trying to work,
cheaply,
trying to climb their way
hopefully,
up financially as they get jobs and evolve. How do you do it wisely? So the original Obamacare had fundamental flaws in it. For example, when you make more than 4 times poverty, there was not an ability to get continued enhanced subsidies.
Well, also the fact that it required subsidies from the get-go. I mean, that should have been their first freaking
clue. But there
clue.
are other issues that were also present that the Democrats tried in early COVID to rectify by throwing money at it. The problem with the approach that was taken, and if it was a great approach, I actually think they would have made those changes permanent. The fact that they're designed to expire now is reflective of the fact that the current system is not the system that anyone really thought would work long term. It creates incentives for fraud. And I'll just give you one example because I keep reading about this in different contexts, but you can understand it in a very straightforward way. Health insurance is different from other kinds of insurance. You don't want to use your fire insurance because you don't want your house burning down. Health insurance you tend to use every year. In fact, on average,
for like a regular checkup,
use their health insurance during the day. If you're watching right now, think about Whether you filled a prescription, went to a doctor's office, you use your insurance. So let's say 20% of the time you don't use your insurance. That was also the number for the Obamacare exchanges. That number has now doubled.
Yeah.
Doubled. We have last year 24 million
that's
people on the
concerning.
exchanges. 11 million people never filed
So
a
I
claim.
hear you talk.
Yeah, like I see where he's going with that. Like 20% of people, it seems fairly reasonable that 20% of people with a health insurance policy, they probably don't go to a checkup every year. They're that's basically how I ride. I don't go every single year for a checkup. So yeah, 1 in 5, that sounds reasonable, but 40% not filing a single claim in a year probably is rife with fraud, because I'm sure 40%, that sounds like way too high of a number for the amount of people who don't see a doctor not one single time, especially doesn't the majority of the country have some sort of a chronic ailment anyway? I mean, we already know that 79% of children 79% of adolescents under 18 years old have some chronic ailment going for them, and they can't even join the military because they have a chronic ailment. That's almost 80%. 80% of American children cannot join the military because they have a chronic illness of some way, shape, or form, whether if it's physical or mental or what have you. Absolutely crazy. So, yeah, it seems a little sus that 40% of people didn't file a claim. So, yeah, I'm sure there's a lot of fraud wrapped up in it. Rapid Response 47 got another one from them. Fake news, as usual. The beautiful American flag that was installed by President Trump never touched the ground. It was lowered into a special container out of abundance of caution during the Marine One landing due to high winds. So I obviously should have started with this from Newsweek. And an image of the American flag lying on the ground at the White House has circulated online, sparking questions and concerns. So yeah, according to Rapid Response, there's a container, though I don't really see a container. It clearly looks like it is laying on the ground, though. So, I mean, I can obviously see their concern with that. So as an image circulating online, let's see. All right. Showing an American flag laying on the ground at the White House quickly sparked questions and concerns over what happened to the flag. Newsweek has contacted the White House outside of normal business hours via email for a comment. Why does it matter? Well, President Trump installed 2 large flagpoles on the White House grounds, both nearly 100 feet tall, which sit in the north and south lawns. Since returning to the White House, Trump has overseen renovations to the People's Host, marking some of the most significant changes in modern presidential history, from the Rose Garden being bulldozed and paved over to bathroom renovations and the construction of a ballroom in the East Wing. By the way, I believe the bathroom is the Lincoln bedroom bathroom, if I'm not mistaken. According to the U.S. flag code, the flag should never touch anything beneath it. That is correct. That guidance, according to the Cornell Law School, reads the flag should never touch anything beneath it, such as the ground, the floor, water, or merchandise. And I believe if it does, for any reason, you're supposed to burn it, right? Or you remove the red, the white, the blue, you separate them, and then you bury it, something like that. I mean, I might have it, a little bit skewed, but in an image taken on November 16th, Trump is pictured returning to the White House after having spent the weekend at his Mar-a-Lago residence in Florida. As the president walks on the lawn behind him, the American flag is laying on the floor. Separate image, which has been shared on social media, shows the flag lying on the floor with no one else in the frame. Flag on the ground at the White House. Yikes. Incident sparked questions about what happened and why the flag was on the floor. In one post on X, Alex Cole, software engineer, shared the image of the flag. The flag's on the ground. Yikes. All right, we get it. What people are saying, I don't, whatever. White House has not publicly responded or explained what led to the flag being on the ground. I mean, Rapid Response is a government account. I believe they are, because they do have the gray badge. The official White House Rapid Response account. I did hear that the FBI, and I'm going to make a note of that. I actually meant to look for that over the weekend. Apparently, the FBI, they are putting together a Rapid Response account too, which is going to be an official account. And of course, what the accounts are used for is to respond to any scrutiny or any pushback against anything that's going on. That's typically what those accounts are used for. So I like to correct the record as quickly as possible. But anyway, yeah. So yeah, they say that it never touched the ground, lowered into a special container. Not really so sure I actually believe that, because it clearly didn't look like that it was. I mean, maybe it actually touched the ground. They could say that it was disposed of properly, yada, yada, so on and so forth. But according to them, it didn't touch the ground. I mean, it is the government account that's saying that. So, all right. Senate Republicans, let's check in on Janet Mills. And she's from Maine, right? Yeah, well, this is from the Maine Wire. Let's take a look at this. Taking a shot and spilling it all over her. Yeah, she didn't get a drop of that in her mouth. Whatever. All right, Congresswoman Erin Huchin. Since day one, the Trump administration has been working to bring down Biden's inflation crisis. It takes time to feel the impacts, but prices are finally moving in the right direction with costs trending down across the board.
Commend Indiana Congresswoman Erin Huchin.
Indiana.
Listen, I have to just say, quite frankly, Congresswoman, when
The
we're
Hoosier.
talking about the economy, it sometimes takes a while. You can make some policy changes. Sometimes you nibble around the edges. Sometimes you dive right in there. And it takes a while for people to actually feel it. Even though the prices, frankly, I think if you look at the numbers, they are down across the board. Is that fair?
It is fair, Kevin. Prices are down across the board. Even if you look at shelter costs, they're down to the lowest level in 4 years. It will take us time to undig ourselves from the Biden economy. We are still trying to do that. Thankful President Trump and House and Senate Republicans are always working toward the affordability answers. You've seen it in some of the things that he's already done, but it's going to take time. You can't put 20 million illegal immigrants across the southern border and not expect to have some of these issues. You can't expect the economy to recover immediately after putting trillions of dollars in the mix after COVID.
Yep, printing it out of nothing.
It's going to take time, but we have the policies that are going to move that forward.
Yeah, when you print money that wasn't created through labor, that tends to be a problem. That tends to create rampant inflation. Plus, when you get 20 million, 30 million, maybe 40 million illegal immigrants in a very short amount of time that pour into the country, they got to eat something. They got to live somewhere. That's going to tend to cause problems in the economy because we're not prepared to take on that amount of people in that short amount of time. You know, that's why we have to have a cap on the amount of immigrants that come into the country. That way we can keep that under control, financially speaking, at the very least. All right, U.S. Department of Energy. The U.S. crude oil production rose to approximately 13.9 million barrels a day, which is the highest on record. And I believe that, that they paywall me. I already know it's going to paywall me. Let me do my typical trick to see if I can open it. I don't believe that it's going to let me, but I might be able to find it through another means. So it'll verify it, and then it will proceed to probably paywall me. U.S. crude oil stockpiles rise as production hits record. Commercial crude oil stocks rose by 6.4 million barrels. Is it going to let me read it? No, of course not. U.S. crude oil inventories increased more than expected last week as U.S. production hit a record high and exports fell, according to data released Thursday by the U.S. Energy Information Administration. Commercial crude oil stocks, excluding the Strategic Petroleum Reserve, rose by 6.4 million barrels to 427.6 million barrels in the week ended November 7th. So there you have it. I'll just kind of leave it there. I mean, what else do we need to know? It's record production, 13.9 million barrels a day. That is a ton of oil production, and hopefully our gas prices will continue falling. But in case you have a Wall Street Journal subscription, I'll have that linked. NHTSA, the National Highway and Transit, Traffic. I always get that wrong. National Highway Traffic Safety Administration. Winter is just around the corner. Make sure you and your vehicle are prepared for what's ahead. More winter driving tips here, which will be linked as nhtsa.gov. Check your battery, check your fluids, check your charging system, check your belts. Also, it probably wouldn't hurt. You can get one of those handheld tire inflation devices. I finally got one this summer. It was like $20 on Amazon, and it's amazing. I can't believe how good that those things really are, because you can charge it. It's rechargeable. You just plug your USB Type-C into it, and it charges up on its own, and it'll inflate like 10 tires or something like that before you have to recharge it. It's real nice. Just keep it in your trunk. Snow is expected in many parts of the country this week. Prepare now by putting together a kit for your car. Pack a blanket, a phone charger, and other essentials in case of an emergency. And that is from FEMA. So build your emergency kit. And I live in Tampa Bay. Last time we had snow here was in 1977. And even when it snowed, it was only on the ground until like 10 o'clock in the morning when it all melted. So not going to have to deal with that personally, but a lot of people live in areas where it snows. So don't forget, get ahead of the snow and pack your car with what you need. Also snacks, right? Like, Pop-Tarts or granola bars, things like that. just in case you end up getting stranded. You got to have something to snack on, maybe some Triscuit crackers. All right, Department of War, CTO, USWRE Michael, the Undersecretary of War, or the Undersecretary of War for Research and Engineering on the Department of War's new critical technology areas. And he says, quote, you have China, a country that has invested more in their defense industry than any country has since World War II, and so on, which I'm sure we're going to hear in the video. So let's just give this a play.
These CTAs, or focus areas, they're basically the Pentagon's roadmap for what matters most in defense innovation right now. They set the direction for everything from DARPA to university research. Now, Emil Michael, he says this is all about speed and focus in today's environment.
Well, obviously you have, in China, a country that has invested more in their defense industry than any country has since World War II. So that changes the environment fairly dramatically from just 10 years ago.
Yeah, but does that include the United States? Because didn't Trump get us like almost $1 trillion, if not just over $1 trillion on military spending? I'm pretty sure that happened.
And I think we also have the kind of the Ukraine-Russia war, which has changed sort of how people think about drones and autonomous. And you have the rise of AI. All three of those things have dramatically changed in the last several years, which make us have to look at our technology portfolio and say, are we right-sized for that threat environment that we have today?
I mean, maybe currently. I did read that China, right now, they're working on building the largest navy on Earth. So what does that mean? I don't know. Aircraft carriers, I'm not sure if they're building out those. But I believe the number 2 country that has the most aircraft carriers, isn't it? I might be wrong on it. It might be China, or it could maybe possibly be Russia. I don't know. But I believe that they have 3, whichever country is number 2. The United States has 13 or 15 or something. Like, we've got way more than any other country. All right, this is from TSA. Did you travel during the shutdown? Was there a particular airport team that you'd like to thank? Drop your appreciation in the replies below, and we'll be sure to pass it forward. So I'll repost it just in case. Anyway, I'll move on. U.S. Southern Command from Kingston, Jamaica. JTF Bravo and 22nd MEU deliver food, water, and supplies across Jamaica. U.S. military forces deployed to Jamaica at the direction of Southcom to provide immediate life-saving assistance following Hurricane Melissa. So we got another video from them.
We're out here to provide immediate life-saving support to the areas in Jamaica affected by Hurricane Melissa.
Worst hurricane in recorded history for Jamaica. 185-mile-an-hour winds.
So many of the...
I mean, look at that. Look at these trees. Just absolutely bare. That's how strong those winds were. It's Jamaica. It's luscious. It's a tropical island. So this is just all filled with green foliage. And, I mean, that's how powerful these Cat 5 hurricanes, I'm sure even Cat 4 hurricanes, I'm sure can do probably this level of damage to leaves on a tree, but stripped every single leaf off the tree.
Affected by Hurricane
Melissa
like a winter
are
inaccessible by road. So the only way we can get those supplies there is with vertical takeoff landing capabilities.
Like dude had a Florida flag on his helmet.
It feels really good to do our job and see the impact we have on the areas in Jamaica most impacted by Hurricane Melissa. It's sad to see some of those families out there.
And and notice how they're waiting patiently and they're not going ballistic.
So much better
like they tend to do in Gaza
when we
or in South
supplies.
Sudan. You know, like the militants and the extremists try to hijack all the food so nobody can get it. All right. Well, that's good, man. They're making good progress in Jamaica. That's good to see. The White House, thanks to President Trump's deal-making, we're making trade fair again and winning big. So he removed tariffs on coffee, tea, cocoa, spices, bananas, oranges, tomatoes, beef, fertilizers, and more are now exempt from reciprocal tariffs. I think that's a good move. America First policies delivering for American workers and families. Trump signs the executive order to modify reciprocal tariffs on certain agricultural products. And let me see if the White House, they typically do. They usually have an article. No, they don't. Often they do. They usually have an article that links directly to whitehouse.gov. But not in this instance, but that's all right. We got it. House Republicans, watch Rep. Chris Smith joined Mark Levin this weekend to discuss the ongoing religious persecution of Christians throughout the globe, especially in Nigeria. President Trump and House Republicans will always stand up for religious freedom.
We have Hamas-like organizations all over the world and countries like Xi Jinping's China that tortures, kills, co-ops Christians and other faiths, but they go after Christians with a special venom. And in Nigeria, was attributable
I didn't mean to do that. Fuck's sakes. So it begs the question, in my opinion, do you think if the Democratic Party were to seize absolute power, as they intend to do, for example, trying to import tens of millions of illegal immigrants and turn them into registered voters, and if they reached a point where they're never going to lose another election, they've rigged the system absolute, do you think that it would eventually get to this point where they start persecuting not only Christians, but just persecuting people who at once upon a time were registered Republicans? Because, they've got records of everybody's registrations, as well as people who, through social media or through just associations with whomever that they identify or had at some point as a conservative. Do you think that they would actually start persecuting them and eventually getting to the point where there would be atrocities similar to what's going on with Christians being persecuted in certain parts of the world? I absolutely think that they would get that psychopathic.
Venom. And in Nigeria, where 90% of all the Christians who are murdered, it happens in that country. Boko Haram, the Fulani terrorists in the Middle Belt area. It's a situation where under the Biden administration, they claim that the mass slaughter of Christians and kidnappings and rape of women
never happened.
Was attributable to global warming.
Global warming? It's climate change. We have to kill everybody because there's just too many people on the earth. We have to get the population down to 100 million people. That's why we're pushing any forms of abortion, pitting women against men. Everybody's got to be LGBTQ now because we just got to get the population down. Secretary Linda McMahon, 43 days of a government shutdown and schools stayed open. Students went to class and teachers got paid. Makes you wonder, do we really need U.S. Department of Education at all?
The Democrats kept the government shut down for 43 days. Flights were delayed, SNAP benefits ran dry, small business and housing loans were frozen, but one major component of life for American families went virtually unaffected: education. The Federal Department of Education furloughed 90% of its staff. What happened? Nothing. Schools stayed open. Students went to class. Teachers got paid. The shutdown proved our schools don't depend
we know
on
it's
Washington
unnecessary.
bureaucracy to function.
It's a propaganda arm.
If 90% of an agency supposedly governing education can disappear for weeks without disrupting education,
it's a waste of money.
Do we really need it at all?
Amen. Amen. We don't. We never did. That's all it is. It's just a propaganda tool. Just to push all this ridiculous ideologies that we're stuck with today. Federal Reserve speech by Governor Waller on the economic outlook. And I've got the YouTube. I'm not going to play it. It's going to be excruciatingly boring because it's a speech from one of the governors of the Federal Reserve. But I did want to point out one part of his speech that that pertains to housing. And let's see, I've got it right here. So again, this is from Governor Christopher J. Waller of the Board of Governors of the Federal Reserve System. Let me zoom in a little bit here. All right, so he says in these couple paragraphs I'm going to read over, a factor that I believe will weigh on spending in the coming months is that most households are facing strains in purchasing large assets such as housing and autos, in part because of the expense. Not just in part, that's completely why. The average motor vehicle is approaching $50,000 right now, and the average home is, last I checked, it was like $385,000. While home price increases have slowed recently and even declined in some parts of the country, prices rose significantly in the past few years. That is especially true for lower value homes, which is making it harder for first-time buyers. Although mortgage rates have declined a bit this year, they are still above 6% and much higher than the average for the decade or so before rates began rising in 2022. Housing affordability is near a record low. Since 2020, the income needed to afford a medium-priced home has risen by 50%. while median income through 2024 was up about 26%. I don't believe that at all. Median income rose 26% in what? In just 4 years? Okay. And while the growth of mortgage debt has slowed, that in part reflects how high mortgage rates are weighing on demand for mortgages. Turning to auto loan growth, it has been relatively weak this year, likely reflecting a combination of weak demand from households and pressures in car affordability. To a greater extent than housing, the cost of purchasing an auto mostly reflects the price, but interest rates play a factor in the monthly payment, which is why a lot of car companies, well, not the companies, the banks and the dealerships, they're offering, 84-month loans. They're even offering up to 8 or 96-month loans in some cases. And maybe you've seen some of these TikToks, maybe not. There's buy here, pay here dealerships that are out there somewhere in the country. They're offering 500-month loans, 550-month loans. I'm not kidding. And their payments are still like $300 a month. When you do the obvious math, they're paying like $700,000 for a freaking Toyota Camry. It's laughable. So again, it's TikTok. It might be fake. Not so sure. It's absolutely crazy though. But yeah, interest rates, they play a factor in it. And also the duration of the loan, because the longer you stretch out the loan, the more interest you're going to end up paying. But the average new car right now is about $750. It's like $740 if you want to be exact. And the average used car payment is $550 a month. That's where it stands right now. I remember not so long ago, like $350 was absurd. I mean, that was a crazy payment, especially for a used car. And for people to just say, well, $750 a month, I mean, that's just normal. That's the new normal. Not to mention your car insurance typically being over $300 a month if you have a new car. So you're paying, like the average new car purchaser, they're paying $1,000 a month just to drive the car. And that doesn't even include gas and maintenance. So anyway, auto loan rates continue to be elevated relative to their average in the years before the pandemic. For example, in 2019, the average 5-year loan carried a 5.3% interest rate, whereas the average is now 7.6%. Reflecting the combination of higher auto prices and interest rate expenses, the weeks of median income needed to purchase an average new vehicle remains elevated, rising from 32.8 weeks in November 2019 to 37.4 weeks in September this year. To sum up, I consider the cost of housing and loans to be an ongoing challenge for consumers, especially lower and middle income consumers. This is likely weighing on spending growth and would become a more acute problem if the labor market continues to weaken. So, and then he goes on to talk about inflation. So again, that'll be linked. So I just figured that would be relevant to talk about because I often bring up housing and auto loans because those are the two biggest assets that the average American is ever going to have in his or her lifetime. And it's obviously kind of important to bring up whenever I come across it. So this is from ReadyGov. California, heavy rain may lead to flash floods, especially in areas that have been affected by wildfires. Pay attention to updates from local officials and be ready to change travel plans if needed. It's been raining a lot there for the last couple of days, I think. Heavy rain can bring dangerous flash flooding. 6 inches of moving water can knock a person down. 2 feet of moving water can sweep a vehicle away. Whether you're walking or driving, stay clear of floodwater. That's according to FEMA. And from the U.S. Army, shoot, move, communicate, watch, fighting first, soldiers execute squad attacks, room clearing, and close quarters combat training at Novoselo training area in Bulgaria. And this is from Sergeant Asher Atkinson.
Soldiers from the Iron Rangers Battalion conducted squad live fires. The training aimed to increase the unit's warfighting readiness.
We are conducting BD6, which is entering and clearing a building. With that, each squad is going through, clearing the building, and extracting a high-value target. This will allow us to, one, build a baseline readiness across all the platoons and squads, and then turn it into lethality with multiple repetitions.
The 1st Battalion's 16th Infantry Regiment soldiers trained with M4s, M240 Bravos, M249s, M320s, hand grenade simulators, M67 frag grenades, smoke grenades, and anti-tank rocket launchers. For 10 days, the 116th soldiers conducted live-fire iterations of maneuvering squads through squad attack, bunker and room clearing, as well as executing close-quarters combat training in an urban environment.
Yeah, that's cool. I like looking at these clips. All the branches, they all have their own accounts, and they post stuff like this every day. So, give them a follow if you happen to find yourself on the X platform if you're not here already. All right, Veterans Affairs. Francis Frank Fogarty, a 101-year-old veteran of World War II and Korea and Vietnam, celebrated his birthday with a bash fit for a hero. This is on news.va.gov. Man, that dude served in 3 different wars, man. That is wild. November 14th. So, let me see. Yeah, so it's a few days old. But nevertheless, still relevant. Earlier this year, Spokane's Mann Grandstaff VA Medical Center hosted a birthday celebration more than a century in the making. The guest of honor, retired Navy Captain Francis Frank Fogarty, a 101-year-old veteran of World War II, Korea, and Vietnam. A year prior, illness had prevented his 100th birthday party. This spring, however, VA staff, family, and fellow service members ensured the milestone was marked with a celebration no one would forget. The event began with a surprise welcome on the hospital's electronic sign, "Happy Birthday, Captain Fogg." Family flew in from across the country as Fogarty, a Montana native born in 1924, quickly realized the day's excitement was for him. Fogarty's career was nothing short of extraordinary. After graduating from the Montana School of Mines in 1943, he enlisted in the Navy at 19. Recognizing his potential, the Navy sent him to the U.S. Naval Academy, where summers aboard battleships like the USS Iowa shaped his sea legs. He would go on to play a pivotal role in developing nuclear power for U.S. warships and America's commercial industry, ultimately commanding submarines, including the USS Nautilus, the Navy's first nuclear-powered submarine. Over 4 decades, Fogarty served through 3 wars and later led at the Idaho National Laboratory while raising 10 children with his wife, Dorothy. The birthday event featured a once-in-a-lifetime moment, a visit from former Navy SEAL Lieutenant Thomas Norris, Medal of Honor recipient from the Vietnam War. Norris entered quietly, saluted, and clasped Fogarty's hands. The room stilled, the room stilled as the two shared unspoken memories only combat veterans could understand. Norris presented Fogarty with a Navy challenge coin before revealing his Medal of Honor. It was the first time Fogarty held one in his hands. The celebration continued with recognition from VA leadership. VA Secretary Doug Collins sent a personal letter and coin through VA Centenarian program. Spokane VA staff joined in, including fellow Navy veteran Taylor Wilkening, who had escorted Fogarty during his visits and helped coordinate the day's events. Dr. John Givens, Navy captain retired and VA nurse anesthetist, donned his dress uniform to explain the history of the coining ceremony to Fogarty's family. From there, the hospital came alive. Nearly 24 family members and hundreds of VA staff and patients lined hallways, waving flags, cheering, and offering birthday wishes. Procession paused as veterans from the American Legion riders saluted and presented another coin, adding to the honors of the day. Finally, Red Cross volunteers unveiled a Navy-themed cake, closing the celebration with smiles, photos, and heartfelt words. So there you go. And here's, let me see if I make this image a little larger. So there he is. Oh, it's a slideshow. Really? Is there a slideshow or is there not a slideshow? I don't know. I think that might be the only image. I know there was one further up. All right. So, yeah, that was the other one. Okay, yeah. That was the other image that they shared. And it's at the VA in Spokane. Very cool, man. 101 years old. Served in 3 wars. It's amazing. Okay, OIG at HHS. According to a new HHS OIG audit, California met some requirements of SAMHSA's Projects for Assistance and Transition from Homelessness program, but it did not accurately report program activities for selected providers. Read more. We'll take a brief look at this. California met some requirements, but did not accurately report program activities for selected providers. Why OIG did this audit? California has the largest homeless population in the United States, with 24% of the nationwide total of more than 771,000 homeless persons. This audit is the 4th in a series to ensure the integrity of grant funds awarded under SAMHSA's Projects for Assistance and Transition from Homelessness program, or PATH. These funds assist states with providing services to individuals with serious mental illness experiencing homelessness. California was awarded approximately $8.8 million, the largest PATH grant in the nation, from July 1st, 2020 through June 30th of 21. This audit assessed whether California complied with PATH program requirements. And OIG found California complied with PATH program requirements related to program costs, non-federal contributions, and consumer eligibility for 5 selected providers. However, it did not fully comply with requirements to accurately report PATH program activities in its annual report to SAMHSA and to ensure providers adequately documented services provided. California included in its annual report an inaccurate number of consumers enrolled in the PATH program for one selected provider, and 2, inaccurate total federal and non-federal contributions made for another selected provider to support its PATH program. California did not ensure that one selected provider documented the services provided to 10 of 20 selected consumers reviewed and contacts made with all 20 consumers. And OIG recommends that California work with relevant parties to provide guidance and training to PATH providers to accurately report data in the PATH annual report and strengthen its oversight of the PATH program by validating that PATH providers adequately document services provided to and contacts made with consumers. California concurred with our recommendations and provided information about the actions that it plans to take to address our recommendations. But will they actually see that rolled out? Probably not. I mean, it is California. I mean, the money was probably just skimmed and pocketed, and God knows what ended up happening with it. I mean, it is California at the end of the day. Department of War, the U.S. Navy commissioned its newest ship, the USS Pierre, during a ceremony in Panama City, Florida. The new littoral combat ship will be key to protecting our borders and those of partner nations against 21st century coastal threats. And we got a few images, USS Pierre, LCS 38. There you go, brand new ship. And there you have it. That was posted about 6 hours ago on the Department of War's account. And this comes from NASA. We're hosting a live event on Wednesday, November 19th, to share the latest images of the interstellar comet 3I Atlas, collected by several NASA missions. Tune in for the details and send in your questions for the live stream with Ask NASA at go.nasa.gov. And yeah, the 3I Atlas comet, like it said, it's interstellar. It's only the third interstellar object that's been detected by anybody, by whether it's by satellite, telescope, NASA missions, any entity whatsoever. This is only the third interstellar object that they've ever detected. The first one, famously, being Oumuamua, which was back in, I think, in 2017. Yeah, a lot of conspiracy theories behind that, because it was a cigar-shaped object that people were speculating that could have been an alien spacecraft. Yeah, so anyway, that's happening on Wednesday. The U.S. Department of Labor, the tool belt generation from welding to coding, Gen Z is taking advantage of the variety of pathways to high-paying skilled trade jobs. CBS News Colorado, quote, more and more young people are choosing a career in skilled trades. Check this out.
The youngest generation in our nation's workforce is swapping textbooks for tools. Your reporter, Kirsten Roth, shows us how more young people are passing on
Jobs are needed
for a career in the trades.
A lot of tradesmen are aging out.
Gen Z has been dubbed quite a few things over the years, but due to a noticeable trend in their career choices, they're now being called the tool belt generation.
So we're gonna put this guy up here.
Taylor Kreutz is an apprentice at High Five, a heating, plumbing, cooling, and electric company. She's training using virtual reality.
It's all done.
If you can get this younger generation to game while learning plumbing, it's going to go really big. And so that's pretty much what the virtual training is.
Close the water heater recirculator valve. Unplug the electrical outlet. It'll show us how to flush a tankless water heater on there. Like, there's steps on exactly what to do, what water to turn off, what stop to turn off.
Taylor and Master are among the company's fleet of Gen Z apprentices, joining in on the nationwide trend of Gen Zers taking interest in the trades, both in lieu of college and after.
All of my friends that are getting out of college don't know what to do for work because you can't really get nothing with your degree yet with no experience.
According to Jobber's annual blue-collar report, enrollment at trade-focused institutions have increased nearly 20% in the last 5 years, as more young people are looking to dodge college debt and find a more steady career path.
I know that I'll always have a job now. I've got the experience, so wherever I go, I don't got to worry about a job. I know I'll be able to plumb somewhere.
Here at High Five, we're glad the winter's over.
And High Five is leaning into that.
Naturally, you know, when you're on Instagram, we're on TikTok, we attract the younger generation. So we're very, very thoughtful on how we set up our shop. And so really it is our duty to be creating a space where people want to join the trades.
It's an example of meeting people where they're at during this shift toward the new tool belt generation.
I think over the last 5 years, people have actually become educated on how good it is to be in the trades.
Kirsten Roth covering Colorado First.
Yeah, it's a great idea, and there's a lot of money in the trades too. And they also didn't mention that you can use the Pell Grant starting next year. I want to say it's for the fall semester. I think it technically takes effect like somewhere around July 1st, somewhere around there, where the anybody who enters the trades, they can qualify for the Pell Grant that will help you pay for it. And of course, it's a grant by the federal government, and it doesn't have to be repaid. So yeah, man, that's great news. Great news that Gen Z's getting involved in the trades. A lot of money in it. It's very good money. So anyway, that's going to do it for this episode. And if you enjoyed the video, please like the video and subscribe to the channel. It'll mean a lot to me if you subscribe, and I'll drop a new show every evening covering the swamp Monday through Friday. Everyone living in it, the politicians, bureaucrats, agencies, and everything else. And I also post daily episodes on X, so feel free to comment over there too if you'd like. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a great rest of your night, and God bless America.